You saying that? Hello.
Mountain. Hello.
Hi,
How
everybody.
are you? We're here.
I'm here.
The three of us, and then Dana will join a little bit later. He is in the midst of flying from Atlanta to Baltimore right now, I believe. Yeah, because he's supposed to land at 5:05. So as soon as he gets to his hotel and gets all set up, he'll join us. And then Steph will have to leave at some point.
Yes.
Well, I've got to leave at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
I hope we're not going that long.
Oh, good. You can go for 12 hours.
Yeah.
I wonder, Steph, tap on your you're using your AirPods.
I should be.
Right? Yeah.
I hear you through the AirPods, yeah.
But it's not like I don't think we're picking up the mic
not
on the
coming through
AirPods. It's like your computer microphone is what we're hearing.
All right, hold on.
Okay.
Oh. Any better?
Yes.
Different.
Oh. Now all of a sudden you're super loud in my ears.
Okay.
But I was definitely hearing you through the headphones before.
Okay.
That's weird.
But now now we can actually
you can hear me.
It's a little it's a little bit louder now because I could tell it was something about 5 feet away that was picking up your sound before. Okay, that's better.
Not as good as your mic.
Fix the sound now. Just a second.
Yeah, but unfortunately her ATR USB mic was doing some USB funkiness.
I
don't think it has anything to do with the mic.
No.
No, you are a little bit intermittent, young lady.
What?
You're a little intermittent, young lady.
I know. It's not the mic. It has nothing to do with the mic. It's the internet.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to deal with it.
I'll see what
as
we can
best we can.
Make do. All right. Let me see how the volume is on this.
Flight 209, you are clear for takeoff. Roger.
Okay.
Yes, my chin is fast disappearing again. Don't worry, folks. It'll soon be gone. In the meantime, I could just hide behind my pop filter like that.
What's that?
I said I might disappear for a second. But if I do, I'll be right back.
I'm hiding behind my pop filter like that. That'd be good.
There you go. It looks much better.
Yeah, I thought it might.
Let's see. Oh, I was hoping you could see the whole. See my lifeguard.
Oh yeah,
jacket. Right. Matt, bunting frame. Gave that to me and
cool.
Steph has one.
Yeah.
And Pip, I think, did Pip get one? I know that, or did Mike get one? I can't remember. Anyway, very cool. It's very, very. It's like a windbreaker, but it's like heavy. I mean, it's warm, very warm.
Very lifeguardish.
Yes.
So can you swim around the sea wearing it?
I don't think so. I think I'd sink to the bottom if I wore that.
Excellent.
Matt could probably swim with it because he's like fit and is a swimmer. But
I think I could manage. I said I think I could manage to swim with it, but I don't think you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you could because she is a swimmer as well. But
yes. Are you an iron lady? Have you done iron woman?
No.
Nope. Sounds like.
Surprisingly, I'm not very good on a bike.
Oh. That could be. I mean, you could cheat and get a motorbike, but
I think that's against the rules.
They don't allow that during the Ironman.
Pretty sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. Got to go over here, make sure we're recording on Audition.
I've had to resort to Blue Moon today.
Blue Moon.
I have nothing to drink. Let me see what's in the fridge.
Yeah, I apologize again, Steph, for not remembering to bring the beer. Mea culpa.
Curses. Yeah,
Me
it's
a
fine.
cowboy, me a cowboy, me a Mexican cowboy. Must have heard that before.
Huh?
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Well, that's
Never
it used
do.
to be a thing you said in church. Mea culpa, mea culpa.
Mea culpa. Mea culpa.
And then what's the last one?
Mea something culpa.
So
Good know that.
as kids, we used to think it was me a cowboy, me a Mexican cowboy.
I don't recall ever saying that in church, but that's just
Oh, well, that's kind of Catholic thing.
yeah.
Okay.
I probably should know.
But that was not something actually that we did in English. Only the other
Only the-
languages did.
Ah,
Latin.
there you
But now
go.
they
Michael
changed the,
Kuipers.
They changed the. Thank you, Michael. Michael knows.
Maxima culpa.
Maxima. Thank you. But they changed the confiteor in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and now we say it the way it's supposed the way it is expressed in Latin.
I
We
guess.
say it in English though. Okay. Doesn't look like I'm getting. Could say something, guys.
Peter Piper, Pitter,
Say
Picker,
something.
Picker, Papa.
I'm not seeing anything there. Okay, let me record just to make sure I'm getting this feed. Okay, go ahead and say something again.
For breakfast, I had
Blah, blah,
a lovely 2 eggs, 2 link sausages, bacon,
Okay.
home fries, wheat
That
toast.
is good.
How did you manage to eat all of that food?
And then for lunch, I had, yeah. Well, I'm hungry, boy. I didn't eat much on the
Okay, go
flight
ahead and
coming
say something
over.
again.
For breakfast, I had
Blah,
a
blah,
lovely.
blah.
Oh, that's clever. You're replaying it, Jeff.
Yeah, you heard that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That was the recording. Good. So I am getting something from that channel, which is good. Okay. So hit record. Boom.
So who have we got in
Recording.
the chat room? We got Nev. Hi, Nev. Tony, Liz, Jen. Liz again.
I can't
Jen
get
again.
into the chat room because it just kills my bandwidth, so I'm sorry.
Tony.
Now you guys can say whatever you want about stuff. She'll never know.
You really can. I'll have no idea.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're saying that about Steph.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that is
Bad
horrible.
people.
Oh. They're not saying anything bad.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
even
just
if they
playing.
were, it's totally
Yeah,
fine.
whatever.
I have no idea. Ignorance is bliss.
It is. That's my philosophy.
Right. David's bringing my cooler, cold box.
Oh,
What do
nice.
you guys call it?
Cooler.
Cooler. He's bringing it over at 7:30ish. So he's going to be listening to the show and he's going to try and time his arrival for when the show finishes. And if we're not too late, I'm going to nip
Is
out
that the 100-gallon one?
yeah.
It's very, very large.
Sorry.
I don't know.
I
I'm gonna
really
get that.
meant to say quart.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know when sometimes you're just like, you're like quart, gallon, same thing.
Whatever, same
He
thing.
was worried he wouldn't be able to get it in his car. So I hope it's fairly big.
Damn right, Lane. That's 26 minutes you're never going to get back. He's complaining.
29, I
26
think.
Did you not notice in my tweet, Lane, that it said approximately? Perhaps
So if you
missed
add
that.
an hour,
Yeah.
you'll be about right.
Exactly. I didn't say what time. Well, I did say what time zone. Never mind. Okay. Let's see. Are we all ready?
Ready?
I am.
Let's just give this thing a shot. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 286.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff?
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, a view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 1A in the APG headquarters building in Roswell, Georgia. This is what happens when you don't have your script up. Although I don't have a script anymore.
You got rid of it.
Yeah, I got rid of it because I thought I had it. in my memory banks, but apparently not.
285 prior attempts at saying it has not cemented it into your memory.
No, not at all. All right, let me try this again. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 286.
Flight 209, are you are clear for takeoff? Roger. LA, good morning. 123.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from the Studio 1A in the APG headquarters building in Roswell, Georgia. In today's episode, bent metal, another passenger trying to open a door in flight, and the flight of a lifetime, your feedback, and the latest Plain Tales installment, Eating the Sun. So get all settled in, tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions, electronic devices powered on. Flight 286 is ready for pushback. Hello and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast, and I am a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier. And joining me, normally he is from across the pond. Actually, I should start with the ladies first. She is joining us from the Carolinas. Let's play her intro music there. There we go.
Doctor?
She is a doctor of physiatry
Doctor? Doctor?
and
Doctor?
a skydiver,
Doctor? Doctor?
a marathon runner, apparently honorary Miss World 2017 winner, and commercial multi-engine instrument rated pilot, Dr. Stephanie Plummer.
Yeah, just the important stuff is at the end there. That's
Yes, I saved it the best for
starting
last.
with Miss World 2017. And no, I'm just kidding.
Should I do that one last?
Yeah, I mean, no.
Leaves the best
Honorary,
impression.
kind of. Honorary.
Okay.
So that's right.
Honorary. There we go. Well, hello.
Hello. Glad to be
Good that
here with you for 286. And sorry for my poor audio quality in advance to everyone who's listening to this. So not at my usual setup. We'll make it work though.
Yeah, it's going to work. We'll make it work. All right. Now, as I was saying just a few minutes ago, joining us normally from across the pond, but this time he is on layover in New York City, actually Long Island. He is a former RAF fighter pilot. He's a professional photographer. He's an all-around great guy. Currently, wide-body Airbus captain for a European airline, Captain Nick.
Hi, Jeff, and hi there over there, Steph, with your horrible audio. Don't worry, no, darling, you sound fine to me. Brilliant to be back on the show. Thanks very much, Jeff. And yeah, I'm out here in Long Island, looking out at the lovely weather. It was pretty foul last night. Perhaps more of that later. A lovely view from Grandma's house here, looking out at a very pretty church spire and the trees and lovely skies. So yeah, it's a great spot for spending a few hours doing a podcast.
Absolutely. As always, appreciate you taking the time in your layover to do this, and Steph taking time out from your workday to join us as well. It's always a treat. Anyway.
Well, the workday's over. I don't know if they would let me take time off of work to.
Oh, it's
do
all
that.
over then.
It'd be nice if they did, but
It would be nice. We should start writing letters.
yes.
And they're going to say,
Perfect.
what is this
Please
they're
let
talking
Steph-
about?
Please excuse Dr. Steph from work today.
Yes, every week for 3 hours, please.
And personally, I can't think of a better use for my layover than sit and chat to you guys. Great.
Well, thank you. That's so sweet. That was not the sound effect I meant to play.
I was just wondering what you're going
I
to
was wondering, yeah, I was like,
I have all these buttons in front of me.
horrible has happened.
And they're very, very tiny, and my fingers are, well, they're not that big, but apparently I'm not very good at aiming my fingers.
Brilliant.
That was the one I meant to play. Okay, let's get on with it. Captain Nick, you
Yes, sir.
were with us on the last show. Not the very last, neither you nor Dr. Steph were with me when I recorded the last show that's on the feed, which was day before. What was it? Yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday.
It was
morning.
yesterday.
Wow, I actually got one published in the same day. That is pretty amazing. It wasn't a 3-hour show though, and that was at the Lake Keowee Lake House in South Carolina, and with me was Pilot Pip and Dispatcher Mike, and the three of us recorded a special Eclipse episode of the Airline Pilot Guy Show. So check that out if you haven't already. Now, Steph was there as well as Matt, BF, and his wonderful family, and they had to leave. I think both Steph and Matt Bunting Frame and family had to leave on what day was that?
Monday. That was Monday. 2 days ago.
After the eclipse. So we're going to be talking a lot about the eclipse on the show, and hopefully that won't upset too many of you who weren't able to actually view it as we were able to view it. But it was quite an event, and it was nice seeing the sun disappear behind the moon. But the best part of it actually was just the hanging out with the APG people.
Well, that's the bit that made me jealous, quite honestly. Listening to you guys on the podcast and crowing about what a wonderful time you'd had, and then I was getting lots of Twitter stuff, and everyone's having a ball, and there I am just sitting at home doing simulators. So
we were all just making all that up. We had a miserable time.
Yeah, it was really pretty terrible.
Yeah, the water was really warm. You were floating out on the lake drinking beer.
It was horrible. It was bad beer. The lake water was not the perfect temperature. Being with those people, just I couldn't wait to get out of there.
Oh, save me from all this, please.
It's all an act.
Yeah, you guys obviously had a wonderful time. I don't think I've heard Captain Jeff sound quite so relaxed for a very long time. So it was obviously brilliant, and I'm very jealous.
Well,
it was very, very nice.
That's why we did it.
And I love the picture of everyone posed up there. Yeah, Steph, you're looking amazingly suntanned in that picture.
Oh, well, I spend a lot of time outside.
That
was not one day worth of suntan.
I don't know why she bothered to even put suntan lotion on, or what do you call that?
Sunscreen?
Sun cream.
Because she's a responsible adult, of course.
Yeah, but
I did put sunscreen on. I put it on one time, SPF 15.
Yeah. Anyway,
no burn. I'm good.
Yeah, so we had a grand time. We really did. And take a listen to 285.5. We did a little bit of feedback on that one as well. Not a whole lot, but we knocked out some. And so it was fun broadcasting with Pip and Mike. And of course, they have their own great aviation podcasts as well. So Captain Nick, were you able to catch the? Well, I guess you didn't see the eclipse over there in the UK. Was like that you didn't have any kind of an eclipse at all.
No, they bored us to death with it on the news, though. I mean, the BBC felt obliged to send dozens of reporters. Remember, the BBC is actually paid for by the people of the United Kingdom. It's like your public broadcasting system, except we all pay in the region of, I guess it would be around $100, $120 a year for the privilege of having free television from the British Broadcasting Company. So I feel personally a bit aggrieved when they dispatch a whole bunch of reporters to go and stand in totality and blather about how wonderful it is, while the rest of us are sitting there in the UK going, I don't want to hear that. It sounds like much too much fun.
Yeah, it was something, that's for sure. The next one is in 2019, and it's not going to be anywhere near North America or the UK. It's going to be in South America?
South America.
Yeah. I think
Pacific
Steph is
Ocean
making
and
plans
then South America. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after the eclipse was over, I was talking to one of my brothers who got to watch the total eclipse as well up in Idaho. And he was already making plans. So if he's in, I'm in. We'll go find.
And no, Liz, you probably already know the answer to this. I forgot to give Steph the IPAs that John Brown had given me to give to her. They're still sitting right over there across the room in the studio down here.
Liz, I think he drank them. He's pointing over in that general direction, but
Yeah, and I'm looking at
who
him.
knows if
I
there's
can,
actually
oh,
a
here,
mirror over
I
there.
can even turn the camera over, and you can see
Yeah, like
yourself.
like
Wait, let me talk so the camera's on. I don't know. Can you see them over there
No.
next to the heat
No.
press?
there's nothing there. There's
Yes, it is.
absolutely nothing
They're over there.
Mhm.
Gosh darn it! No, I
Fake
forgot. In
news.
fact,
Fake news.
I looked at I looked at them before I left, and I was looking at all the things. You can see it looks like a bomb went off in here, and I'm thinking, okay, don't forget those. I forgot those. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, we had a grand time, and what else was I going to say? Anything else? Oh, up here in the camera, you might be able to see. Did I already talk about that? The lifeguard thing? I think I did. Yeah.
No, that was
No,
before
I
we
think
started.
we're off
Was that
now.
before we started? Okay.
Yep.
Matthew Bunting Frame and Nicola and Evie and Charlie, the two young, cute little girls. They came over. He's been spending some time in the States, and was able to join us for Sunday night and up to the Eclipse, and then a little bit after, and then they had to leave because they had to fly back the next day, which was yesterday, back to Australia. And but he brought that nice a nice gift for me, a lifeguard. What do you call that? A windbreaker, heavy windbreaker.
Yeah.
More than a windbreaker. It's like a jacket.
It's a coat, jacket.
Coat, yeah. Very, very nice. Oh, and what do you call that thing you wear on your head there? I think he called that a dickie. Oh no, it's a family show.
What? Oh, I didn't get one of those.
It's like a bathing cap of some kind.
I think
Yeah.
I call it a cap, a swim cap.
Okay. Yeah, I got one of these. And he even has, there. It doesn't work when you put it over your headphones. There you go. How's it look? Pretty good?
Looks like a
Excellent.
good target, Jeff.
Anyway, thank you very much, Matt, for that. It was so nice meeting you, and interviewed him. And unfortunately, he wasn't there, as Steph wasn't as well, but he wasn't there for the actual show that we recorded yesterday morning. So I did record something on the H5 before he left, and that is included in the program that we or that I put out yesterday. So check it out. Enough of that. Anything else we want to talk about regarding the Eclipse before we move on?
Nope.
We're going to talk
I
about
don't
more.
think
We will talk more about the Eclipse during the show, but
No.
that's enough for our own little, kind of get together.
Hey, someone's not upset at all about it.
I know. Sorry.
I think it was a great opportunity for you guys to get together, and I'm just so sad I missed out on it.
Well, we're sad that you couldn't make it. Let's see. Now, are you going to be here on? Let's see. Today is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. In 3 days, are you going to be here, Captain Nick?
No.
Well, shoot, you're going to miss out on this as well.
Yes, I know.
No.
I'm not doing very well, am I?
No, you're not. In Atlanta this Saturday, this is being organized by Stephen Ivey, Mr. Mooney Driver. He is getting a group of us together over at the Scofflaw Brewery inside the perimeter in Atlanta. Again, that's scofflawbeer.com, and check it out. And so you can find out where it is. If you're in the Atlanta area and you're listening to my voice at this moment, please make sure that you join us on Saturday at 2:00 for a meetup. And then after that, after we do the tour of the brewery, then we're going to go somewhere probably close by for dinner. So information about that will be found on Slack and the Meetups channel, and Twitter and Facebook. So we'll put some information there as well for you to join us on Saturday if you happen to be around. So thank you, Stephen, for coming up with that meetup organization. Nev is still looking for people to join him while he's here in the States on September 12th and 13th. He's going to be at Dulles International Airport, or the Fairfax, Virginia area. And so he's putting that out there for anybody in the community that might want to join up with him.
Funny, I think I'm going to be in New York on the 13th, but so we're not going to be far away, but I'm just going to be a little too far north.
Yeah, probably a little bit too far for you to venture away from New York.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. What else has been going on, Captain Nick? Anything going on in your life since the last show?
Well, yeah. I had an accident, so I was
an accident. Oh my God. Are you okay?
well, no, actually.
He's-
There's
What
I
happened?
think he's okay, but the rest of us are a little bit.
There's
What?
quite a
What are
lot
you
of
talking
me
about?
missing. Well, to be fair, I was taking a look at my beard. Now I've had it for well over 20 years since I left the Air Force, and it was starting to look a bit scruffy. I thought a bit ragged, so I decided to get rid of it and grow a new one. So that's what I've done. In reality, I was trimming using a razor with one of those little guards on it that cuts at the right depth, a few stray hairs, and I forgot. I took the guard off by accident, thinking it was just a protector on the end of the razor, and I attacked these few hairs. The next minute, I looked up and went, "Oh my God!"
Did you draw?
Yeah, the side of my face was naked. So I went, "Oh hell!" So first thing I did, shave it into a little goatee, and I thought, "Nah, that does not suit you, Nick. That really looks awful." So I shaved the entire thing off, and I'm now in the process of regrowing it. It's 48 hours old, and it's already starting to look reasonable, although you won't be able to tell on the camera, and certainly not on the podcast. Don't worry, in a couple of weeks, you won't have noticed. So that
Well,
was
I think you have a beautiful face.
no. Yeah, it's just my boots think I've got a beautiful face too, because they think now you're as pretty as we are. So the second thing was just simulators. It was just that time of the year for going and doing line-orientated flying training, and that was pretty standard. It was my first time with a first officer trainer. I'm not going to make any comment about that. It's all very professionally done. Some interesting profiles. Did a lot of stuff that you would do during winter operations on an imaginary departure, funnily enough, out of Dulles, with heavy snow falling and all the de-icing required, working out our holdover times, briefing and doing all the cold weather procedures, keeping the flaps up till you get to the end of the runway, all the taxi procedures when it's very slippery, doing ice shedding procedures, obviously doing performance calculations for a contaminated runway. And we've got new performance calculating software on our iPad. So that was all kind of good to run through all that. And then off into an imaginary flight where we got a series of emergencies that necessitated returning. So that was all kind of good. But the one thing I was going to mention was this is the first time I've ever had intervention training. Now, we laugh about Dana, whose theory is that if anyone tries to kill him, he's just going to take a baseball bat to the captain and beat him unconscious, and then he'll take control of the airplane. Ours intervention training is just a little more sophisticated than that, but first time I've actually been trained to recognize a situation where the other pilot might not be doing his job well enough to keep the aircraft safe, and then judging the right moment to step in and take control. And as I said this before, our first officers are usually extremely experienced. But I think with the introduction of pilots into our company, into Acme Red, who are the other end of that scale, I think the company is preparing itself for the moment when the captains might actually need to step in occasionally, because 23 years of flying, I've never had to take control from my first officer. So that's been quite interesting. And of course, the first officer had a go as well. The trainer took my seat and then pretended to be a bullshit captain who was trying and press on and land when really he ought to have gone round. So that was fascinating. And other than that, I've just come out here on JFK, and we were racing the thunderstorms to New York last night. So as we were coming in, we were looking at some real big bangers hovering around near the New York area. And it was very hard to tell whether they were actually going to be over the airfield before us or after us. But as it was, we managed to sneak in just ahead of them But all the time we were taxiing, the sky was lit up. It was quite impressive.
Yeah, I heard about that. I'm glad you made it in. Didn't have to divert somewhere.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about it. Unfortunately, both our diversions, Newark and Stewart Field, were like the other side of these thunderstorms. So I was thinking, oh,
Yeah. I love how they do that.
Good choice.
Yes.
Here's your divert location, and it's you have to
And
somehow
even
make it through the
worse.
severe weather to get there. No.
Exactly.
No.
So that wasn't ideal, but luckily we were carrying a reasonable amount of fuel. So I said to my first house, so if we have a problem, we'll just go back to Boston. So that seemed the best idea.
Now, do you have dispatchers that do that kind of planning for you, or do you actually file the flight plan and designate alternates on your own?
No, but it's not a dispatcher that does it. There are a series of different departments that take the role of the dispatchers on Acme.
Okay.
So, yeah, we have an operations department, but very small, that sort of keep an eye on ongoing things. We've got a flight planning department that do the filing. We've got a turnaround coordinator who does the leading and organization of load sheets, that sort of thing. So all those duties seem to be split up, whereas I think your system is you've got one expert, one really good guy who does it all.
And usually do a very good job. Occasionally we'll have things like what you just mentioned, where the alternate airport is on the other side of the weather, and if it's really looking like you're going to have to divert, or there's a good potential for it, then you start looking realistically at which is the best airport to go to on the other side or this side of the weather, so you don't have to go through it.
Right. Pick your own alternate.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you're not obliged to use the one on the paperwork. It's just that's often the ones that your fuel is calculated for.
Yeah.
So if there are alternates, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Steph, anything happened with you other than the little few days over at the lake?
Yeah, I mean, there was that small event. Trying to think if there was anything else exciting that happened. I did do some flying on Saturday morning, I think. Was that this past week? I can't even remember now.
I think so.
But I think can you guys hear me still?
Yes. We can hear you.
Can you? Okay, good. Because all of a sudden you both froze. So, okay,
no, we're
just
still
making
here.
sure. Seemed like I was talking to myself. Sorry about that. Yeah, again, internet quality here, not optimal. So, yeah, I did a little bit of flying on Saturday morning, just going out and shooting some approaches to maintain my instrument currency. And I did that in the Cirrus. So I think I got 4 approaches in, and I'll do a couple more in another week or two. That was good.
Excellent. Yeah, on the last show we were talking about, someone had written in a question about currency. I think it was Trevor in Colorado, about maintaining our currency and flying certain approaches and logging them and that kind of thing. And I thought, well, the only thing we ever do is just 3 takeoffs and 3 landings every 90 days. And I guess because the Part 121 rules for currency are different than the Part 91 rules. And there she goes. She is gone. So yeah, she's definitely having internet issues, which is not unusual.
Oh, poor Steph.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll be back. Okay, so with that, since she's not with us right now, you know what I'd like to do? I'd mentioned this a few shows ago. Dr. John Brown flew from Toronto to Columbus for the meetup, and he gave me actually, he didn't give me the beer that I was supposed to give Steph until I saw him again in Oshkosh. Just a short while after the meetup in Columbus, saw Dr. John Brown there, and that's when he gave me the beer that I was supposed to give to Steph. Anyway, he also gave me, and I mentioned this a couple of shows ago, the CD, Jazz It Up, and he said, "Yeah, this is my wife singing," and I said, "Well, this guy on the keyboards in this picture looks like you, a younger you," and he goes, "Well, that is me." And so I said, I'm going to try to play some of this for you. And he gave me permission. They're not going to put the law on me and throw me in jail for playing this on the show. So I want you to hear some of this absolutely amazing jazz. It's just really, really good. So here we go. This is called That Old Devil Moon. Brenda Scott. Hear that piano in the background?
Something in your eyes
That's Dr. John.
soon begins bewitching me. It's that old devil moon
Isn't that awesome?
that you stole from the skies. It's that
Is there any
old
doubt
devil moon
for any of you
in your
that
eyes.
Dr. John can't play the Java Jive and perhaps even sing to it?
No, that would
Anyway.
be great. I'd love to hear him do that.
Yeah. All right. Enough of that. But I've been listening to that CD almost nonstop since he gave it to me. So thanks again, John, for that. Your wife is a very talented singer, and you are a very, very talented keyboard player, pianist. All right. With that, then I think we can move on to, speaking of the Java Jive, let's do it. I love coffee, I love tea, I love the Java Jive and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. All right. While they sing in the background, let us talk about the Coffee Fund, which is the way you can support the show financially. It's called the Coffee Fund Cadre. You can learn about that by heading over to airlinepilotguide.com/coffee. And there you'll see two different ways to participate in the Coffee Fund. And that is the classic method, we call it, via PayPal. And since last week's episode, Chris Randall, we received his recurring payment via PayPal. And the other way to do it is to become a patron of the show via Patreon. And we have a new producer. We have Sean Hempel, a new patron at patreon.com. Thank you very much for your patronage, and thank you, Chris, for your contribution. It is much appreciated. So check it out again if you want to participate by heading over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. Cabbage and beans. Oops, greens. A little bean. I wish I had the words. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm going to slowly fade this out. There it goes. And now it is time for the news.
Stand by for news.
Okay, let's start with this one. There was a little episode at JFK. Captain Nick was just talking about that airport in which he flew in from Heathrow. This happened about a week and a half ago, I believe. Let me see the article from Bloomberg. Let's see, 2 or 3 Delta Airlines, actually just 2. Delta Airlines planes were involved in 3 wingtip collisions in separate accidents over 2 days on the ground at New York's John F. Kennedy Airport. Actually, to be fair, one of those incidents involved one of the connecting carriers that we use, or they use.
Oops.
Whoops. Let's see. The National Transportation Safety Board said Thursday that it's investigating the incidents and indicating that they may be more serious than usual, or there may be a pattern. Just to be, well, never mind. Low-speed collisions sometimes occur between planes and other aircraft or vehicles on the tarmac and taxiways, and usually don't cause significant damage or injuries. The first mishap occurred at 7:12 p.m. on August 15th, when a Boeing 737 operated by Delta and an American Airlines group, Boeing 757, each were taxiing out for departure. The Delta plane's left wing touched the American jet's tail. No one was injured, according to the FAA. Have a little bit of audio on that if you want to listen to it. It's kind of interesting if you're wondering what it's like in the cockpits of airplanes when they actually bump another airplane. And let's go with that here.
2503, continue Charlie, then Echo, monitor 23.9, good day.
Charlie Echo 23.9, Delta 2503. Delta 2503, our last instructions were Charlie, then Echo. Is that still what you want us to do, or you want to follow us to follow American?
Delta 2503, we'll start the new line there. So you can go Charlie, then left Echo, then it's Fox Bravo, follow that American again, but we'll make the line a little longer. Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue up that follow American for 20. Tower American 290.
American 290, can you tower?
Yeah, the Delta at our 3 o'clock, we're pretty sure he ran, his winglet ran into us as he passed behind us. We had a big jolt, and he's got a big scrape on his left winglet.
American 290, roger, stand by.
Tower Virgin 4 Charlie, we're just looking at that American Airline in front of us, the right elevator does look as if it's got some damage on it.
Virgin 4 Charlie, happy, roger, thank you.
Obviously, Delta will need to go back to the gate and have that checked as well.
Delta 2503, roger, stand by. The last calling unanswered, say again?
Virgin 4 Charlie again. You're going to have to get someone out here because there's debris on the ground right in front of us. I think it's part of the American Airlines aircraft.
Virgin 4 Charlie, heavy, roger, hold position.
Okay.
And Delta 2503, I'm going to have you go back to the ramp. I'm going to have a couple of those porches get out of the way, and then I will move you out down the runway when I get a chance. And American 290 and Delta 2503, we're going to have the trucks come out just to inspect the area and the aircraft.
Okay. Copy that for American 290.
Delta 2503, you can taxi into your own power once I get you going, correct?
Say affirmative for Delta 2503.
And American 290, you're also able to taxi into your own power?
That's affirmative for American 290.
Okay, I just have the port over there to just inspect the area, and then I will get back to you once I can move you both.
Okay, copy that, thank you.
I'm assuming you guys are just going to taxi back, confirm?
That's correct. Unless you see any, for Delta 2503, that's our plan, unless you see any leaks or anything like that.
Nah, your winglet.
For American 290, we're just wondering what the cone looks like at the back.
You got a decent sized chunk off the right side rear stabilizer.
Yeah. I cut a lot of that out. There were some other communications going on there that wasn't really pertinent to the incident. But yeah, that happens when you don't maintain proper clearance on your wingtips. And, and since they've introduced the winglet on the end of wings, I think that taxi collisions have really gone up pretty dramatically, because in the past, we didn't have these huge 6 to 10 foot or maybe even taller pieces of the wing sticking upwards. And I think we probably got away with a lot of near hits in the past, but now you can't get away with it anymore, because there's a lot of wing out there that sticking upward into the air. So and the Virgin Atlantic airplane was there to witness the whole thing and mentioned that there was a pretty good chunk of the right stabilizer, the right tail of the 757. There were some pictures also included in this article, and yeah, a very, very large chunk of the 757 tail was missing. So oops, that's not a good thing. Yeah.
Just as I was listening to it, though, it's not like, you have a fender bender or something in your car. You don't just get out and go assess the damage and talk to the other driver. And, there's a lot that goes into it in this case, because it's not your own personal vehicle, and there's other, debris on the field to consider for other aircraft. And yeah, kind of ties things up for a while, huh?
I think so, yeah. And interestingly, I think that the first thing that the ground controller, I think, wanted to do was get them out of the way and back to their ramps, and then they could take care of the damage and that kind of thing.
Right.
But then I think somebody said, wait a minute, hang on. We need to get somebody out there to probably take pictures and assess the damage and all that kind of stuff. So that caused a little bit of a delay for a bunch of departing flights there that evening. And then, of course, you could tell that the pilots were concerned about, do you see anything leaking from the airplane? Because that could be a major safety issue with all those passengers on board.
Jeff, did you come exactly where on the airport they were?
Yeah. So they taxied across 31 right or 13 left on the way out to, they were heading to 22 right for departure. And so in that northern portion of the airport there, where the 13 left and 22 right come together, is like a bunch of taxiways at angles and parallel taxiways and everything else. And I think the ground controller was just trying to squeeze more airplanes in that space. That's why he asked the Delta flight to continue straight ahead and then make a 90-degree turn onto the next taxiway. And they had the American flight kind of that on that angle, that diagonal taxiway. And I think when the Delta flight was passing the American flight, I guess he assumed he had adequate clearance on the tail of that 757, but obviously not.
Well, I guess in smaller aircraft, you kind of feel like you can probably help out the controller and get through those tight gaps. But one of the advantages of piloting a pretty massive machine is that we never even try to get through a gap we're not absolutely convinced of. So, I expect people just trying to help the controller out, or just trying to get into position to get a fast departure. But I mean, I would normally never go behind another aircraft unless I was absolutely convinced that there was a vast amount of space. So yeah, it's just a shame, because I can't recall other than when one of our aircraft was on pushback out of JFK, when the tug driver managed to reverse them into a blast wall. I can't think of a time when we've ever had a ground collision of any kind.
Well, I hope that you never do. It's
likewise. Yeah,
not a good thing. I think that's one of those things where you probably have to make a visit to the chief pilot's office.
Yeah,
I suspect
absolutely.
a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, a lot of paperwork.
There's very little excuse for it, unfortunately.
Yeah, you just sometimes you kind of take, as you said, take some chances and make assumptions, and it's never good to do because you probably get away with it most of the time, but occasionally you don't. So you just got to be really, really careful about those big, long things that are sticking out the sides of your airplane.
Absolutely.
That just reminds me, I don't really have a lot of nightmares, but if I ever do have a dream that is a little troubling, it usually involves me in an airplane, taxiing on the ground, not flying. And strangely, it involves usually in a setting like in a city, taxiing around an airplane in the city. I don't know why. But,
trying to save
down an
time
alleyway,
at the hotel.
like.
And I'm usually hitting a lot of things with the wings. So I hope that doesn't come to bite me in the future. But anyway, Tony in the chat room was asking if this was something that occurred at night, and not really. It was 7:12 p.m. and this time of year, August 15th, 7:12 is still plenty of daylight. So it was not dark. So I don't believe it's dark up there in New York at 7:15 this time of year, is it, Nick?
I don't think so.
You didn't come in until late last night, so it was definitely dark when you came in.
Well, yeah, I was about 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Anyway, and the last paragraph of this article talks about an airplane very similar to the one I fly, the MD-88, touched a flatbed truck as it was turning into a ramp area. While the FAA reported no injuries, Joseph Tangelo, a spokesman for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, said the driver of the aircraft tug vehicle was treated at a hospital and released. Now, I'm kind of scratching my head on this one. So it says a flatbed truck, and then it says an aircraft tug vehicle. And to me, those are two different kind of vehicles. So I'm not sure exactly what happened there, if it was under tow or was under its own power or what happened. But
they're mixing their vehicles there somehow.
Yeah, unless there's a flatbed tug out there that I haven't seen. Maybe there is. I don't know. Anyway, be careful out there. That's the bottom line. If you're not sure that you have clearance, then just stop and wait for somebody to come out and let you know, wing walkers or whatever, or just wait for. And I could see what was happening there. The 757, the ground controller was definitely trying to get traffic moving, and the Delta flight was just trying to do a good job and be helpful. And unfortunately, he ended up causing a major issue, a major problem for a couple different flights. So be careful out there, everybody.
Yeah, particularly in JFK, which is an airport that is actually renowned for having some very tight access points, and some of the vehicles drivers there. That last one is quite apt because I don't know, they're all a bunch of hooligans out there.
Yes. Let's see. Here's another one. Another incident of a passenger getting up, trying to open a door in flight. This one from American Airlines. This is from airlive.net. Passengers aboard an American Airlines flight were left shaken after, they say, a man tried opening the exit door during a flight. Several people on the flight Saturday from Los Angeles to Minneapolis, St. Paul told CBS News that a man wearing sunglasses tried to grab, I don't know why wearing sunglasses was included here, but he was wearing sunglasses, so there's your first clue. There's something bad about this guy. Tried to grab the handle of the plane's exit door a few minutes after the pilot announced that they were descending. So to me, that means that they were basically at cruise altitude or just a little bit below it. Quote, there was a lot of yelling and screaming. I thought perhaps two of the passengers had gotten into maybe a fist fight. Witness Richard Munassi said. Another witness on the flight told the news outlet that passengers subdued the man until flight attendants stepped in to help. So, and if you look at this article, link to it in the show notes, there's a little bit of a video that somebody took with their camera, most likely. And you can see the cops, once they reached the gate, coming on to take the sunglass wearing passenger, he was wearing sunglasses in this video as well, off the airplane. So, when are they going to learn?
Never trust a person in sunglasses.
I know.
Moral of this story.
Yeah, that's the moral to that story. And again, you can try as hard as you want. You're not going to be able to open that door unless they.
We'd rather you didn't try, just in case.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And finally, in the news folder here, well, first of all, Greg wrote in with some feedback, and he said, hello, Captain Jeff, Nick, Rick, and Doc Steph. I have a quick question for our airliner guys. With the solar eclipse coming here, how dangerous is it for the eyes? What is being done for the pilots and I guess the passengers during the eclipse? I'm pretty sure the management doesn't care enough, and logistically it would be near impossible to have no one in the air at the time. Yeah, that's impossible. Yet flying sunglasses aren't good enough, but you can't put on those special viewing lenses and still fly. Thank you. This is from Greg Spewed in Maple Lake, Minnesota. And we did have a little blurb in one of our operations bulletins at Acme saying, finally, as you have no doubt heard, a solar eclipse will occur on August 21st, traveling on a path from Oregon to South Carolina. For those of you flying next Monday in the areas where the eclipse path will be most visible, please advise your passengers to use caution when looking at the sun, even though a direct view from the cabin is unlikely. So that transitions to this nice little article that I just found this morning, and this is from fastcompany.com. Lucky passengers on one transcontinental flight got to experience totality from miles above the ground. Here they described their experience. And this was a Delta flight, Flight 2466, leaving Portland for Atlanta, and they knew that they were going to be traveling along the path of the eclipse, and that they were at some point during the flight that they were going to be in the area where they were going to have the totality of the eclipse. And let me read a little bit of this article. And of course, Delta is not the only airline that had these kind of special flights, although this one was not specifically earmarked just to watch the eclipse. I think Alaska, didn't they have one that was specifically set up just to go and look at the eclipse? Perhaps some other airlines did as well, but
I think it was Alaska had a special flight for that.
I think I remember reading something about that.
Yeah. Right.
This one, let's see. A Reddit is a site, a website on the net where kind of like a huge forum, chat room, whatever, had already caught wind of this potentially spectacular flight, Delta Flight 2466, which is how Williams learned of it. And Anna Ruth Williams and Cooper Petway found each other in the Delta Sky Club in Portland, awaiting a once-in-a-lifetime experience. They were going to fly with the eclipse. Anyway, this is normally a routine transcontinental flight, but today would be different. The plane happened to be traveling through the path of totality. The paths of the sun and the moon were going to intersect in such a way that one would blot out the other for a course that bisected the continental United States, an event last seen in 1918. Williams, I guess in that area. Williams was in Portland for business, Petway for pleasure. Both were booked on the same Atlanta-bound flight. The two, along with dozens of other passengers, were going to have front row seats for a celestial light show. When they got to the airport, other passengers were abuzz, unsure of what would happen. Some travelers were normal commuters who had just happened to have booked a special treat. Others reserved this flight specifically for the view. One man timed the end of his Alaska vacation intentionally to catch this flight. Petway counts himself in that bucket. He was less than 1,000 miles away from his millionth mile traveled on Delta, and thought a nice way to ring in the event would be to travel through darkness for a minute or two. While boarding, people wondered about what exactly would happen. What would the passengers see? Would the plane be actually to be able to actually show the eclipse sun? Which side would be a good side to sit on? Flight attendants, too, were excited. Some took days off to work this specific journey. Then the travelers sat and waited, no word yet from the captain about what was in store. Finally, about 20 minutes in, the captain spoke, given a countdown for the event. The plane, which departed at 8:35 a.m., would hit totality at around 10:10. After a half an hour in the air, the plane caught up with the eclipse. The sky began to slowly darken. It started getting like dusk. Still, no one in the plane really knew which side to sit on to get the best view. The problem was that the plane was heading directly toward the sun. Now, I'd like to stop here for a moment and say that unless they're in a rocket, they are not heading directly toward the sun.
They're going straight up.
Yeah. So and I'm pretty sure that the captain did not say that they were heading directly for the sun. I would imagine he said the sun is going to be directly above us.
Yes, we're traveling in a parallel path to the sun right now, such that you cannot see it on one side or the other. But hang on tight because it's going to get hot.
I just thought that was so funny when I read that they were heading directly toward the sun. Huh? So while the travelers would get a view of the darkness, they wouldn't necessarily see the eclipse in action. The captain had an idea, but he needed to get approval first. Once we approach totality, the captain said over the loudspeaker, we'll ask air traffic control if we can do some maneuvering. That's when they're going to go straight up and down, right? Let's see. He added, as any concerned captain ought to, a warning. I do caution you all again, you won't be able to look directly at the sun. Well, you will be, but you shouldn't, I guess, is what he probably said. The pilot kept saying that we were heading right into the sun. Another passenger says, describing the flight to me. The hope was that right when the plane was in complete totality, the captain would move it just a bit so the passengers could get a glimpse of the sun. The captain, however, wasn't sure he would get the go-ahead. The skies were filled with other planes, and it could prove unsafe to move out of the flight path. The passengers waited to see what would happen. And you guys are probably viewing a little bit of the FlightAware track of the flight, and right over between, what is that?
What's Wyoming and Nebraska?
Wyoming and Nebraska border. There's like a little bit of a right turn and then a left turn where obviously the captain was able to bank up whoever the pilot flying was, able to bank up the airplane and give the passengers a view of the eclipse. And there's some pictures in here from the passengers of what they saw. And so anyway, it was kind of a cool thing. It would have been exciting to be on an airplane like that and be able to see the totality of the eclipse on an airplane.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, people pay a lot of money for that. To get it on a regular trip is a real bonus.
Yeah. So I thought it was just worth mentioning, and because a lot of the theme of the show is talking about the eclipse. I have a feeling we're going to hear more about eclipses in the future. So stay tuned for this week's installment of Plane Tales.
Just go back to Greg's their message where he says what's been done for pilots. Of course, when we are flying across the Atlantic, or any time you're flying a dawn or a flight, you're probably at some point you're probably going to have the sun directly in front of you, just spitting you in the eye through the windshield.
Directly into the sun.
Exactly, and it's at full brightness. Then I mean, there's no moon to get in the way and dim it slightly, and we have to fight that that problem all the time. So we actually have some pretty impressive sun shields that come down. Now I don't know about your aircraft, Jeff. Mine are just a very deep orange. And you can, when you pull them down, you can more or less look at the sun because it's barely a glowing dot in that. So yeah, it'd be perfectly safe to observe an eclipse through those if you could, if you could actually see it. This, if you're lucky enough to see the sun. But no, that's how we cope with the sun glaring into the cockpit all the time. We still have to look out for aircraft, and if the aircraft happens to be relatively close to a sun that's low on the horizon, you're still going to have to try and find it with your eyes. And of course, it's always a danger that you might stare at the sun. So that's what we tend to use, these really effective sun shields that are available on the flight deck.
Since your airplane is a little bit more modern than the one that I fly, we do have I don't know,
like bits of newspaper.
Well, I was going to say, hang on. We do have tinted visors that we can move around. Probably
still using paper charts, so they just
if we have paper charts, they work great. Newspapers work well too. Now, of course, we have to make sure that we're not blocking our view out the windows, because as Nick just said, even though if you're traveling at the cruise altitudes in the 30s and 40s, you still have to be clearing for traffic. And UFOs and what else?
And all sorts of things.
all kinds
weather
of
balloons.
Weather balloons and
other
things.
I did see. I don't know how much of what you heard from what I was talking about my little flying trip on Saturday, because my internet was not working great at that point. But I did see just like someone's happy birthday balloon up at about 2,500 feet. One of those. What are they? Mylar.
Was there like a little kid holding on to it?
Yes, actually.
A little Boy Scout. Or an old man in a house.
Maybe
an old man in a big house.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of balloons. Oh man, yeah, I've seen balloons before. It gets your attention.
Oh, yeah, it's one of those things where you go, ooh, because you see it right as you're passing it, not before that.
And what's funny about that is usually when you're there with at least two or more of you in the cockpit, usually only one person sees it, because you have to be looking right at the right place to see it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so yeah, we do have, but I'm sure they're not as effective as the visors or whatever you call those shades in your airplane, Nick.
Well, I don't know about that, Jeff. A piece of colored plastic is a piece of colored plastic.
Yeah. Right.
Although I have to say, in the days when we used to get those little plastic films that you used to put on a tray, serve your meal on, that everything kind of stuck to, they were great, because if you give them a little bit of electricity, you could just slap them on a piece of on the windshield, and they would just stick there, and you could peel them off and move them around. They were ideal. But like you say, not perfect for flight safety, because you can't see through them.
Right.
But, not a bad idea.
So there you go. Thank you, Greg, for your feedback and question about the precautions for pilots and passengers. And then it was kind of nice to hear about one of the instances of people fortunate enough to be on airliners during the actual total eclipse. So we were just getting a message from Dana that he'll be joining us in approximately half an hour. And that'll be about the time that Steph will be having to leave. So that should work out well. Let's see. What else did I want to do here? Let's move on to the best part of the show, which, of course, is your feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Let's start off with some feedback from, let me find the right folder here, from Max. Hello. I'm new to the APG community. I found out about this podcast because of my passion for aviation, but more so because of the fact that I want to be an airline pilot for a career, which brings me to a question for you guys and gals. I'm currently taking flight school for my PPL, and I'm getting close to my first solo flight. Do you have any tips and or tricks for studying for the pre-solo exam? Thanks for your time and consideration, and keep on flying. And then again, that's from Max Badney. So it has been
Yes.
a long time since I've soloed, and I don't remember any kind of a pre-solo examination, so I'm not going to be very helpful here. Steph, would you have
Yeah,
any
I'm
advice?
probably the closest to this, but even that was like over 6 years ago at this point. And I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head what was actually on the test, but I think some of it was airplane specific. So, it was knowing the different V speeds for your aircraft and some of the, gosh, what else was on there?
Know how to know how to pick the right door to get into the airplane.
Yeah, it was basic safety stuff. So this isn't your written test for your private pilot certificate, but it's more practical things about aircraft safety and being able to operate your particular aircraft safely for the first time by yourself. Yeah, I think there was some stuff on there about VFR weather minimums, probably some stuff about what your solo flight requirements are, because there are some limitations there in terms of how far you can go away from the airport and what types of cross-country type trips you can take and things like that. Trying to think what
Fred
else.
is helping us out here. He said,
Fred is helping? Okay, good.
Stall speeds, stall recovery, emergency landing, problems in the patterns.
There you go. See,
all good stuff to know.
That makes a lot of sense.
So if it's like, I'm going to tell Max that his entire career, if he's going to fly for all of his life, is going to consist of nothing more than having to recall and pass tests and spout information on all sorts of subjects, and they get more and more complex, but still the basis is there. When it comes time to study for these, all you can do, old chap, is to put yourself in a good environment, make sure you've got all the information there you need to know, and just quietly plow through it. Don't make yourself too tired by studying too long. I found that making notes was a great way of forcing things into my brain, because I found the act of writing the information out helped me remember it. When you get mentally tired and you think you can't learn anymore, then take a break, but come back to it. Don't skip it. And that's the way for studying for any exam, really. If you're going to have to produce information, spout information out, you just need to quietly work at it until it's become embedded in your brain.
And I think the only advice, or not the only, but some sage advice from me is that don't doubt that you're not ready to solo when your instructor says it's time for me to get out of the airplane and for you to go up by yourself. If he or she did not think that you were ready to do it, they wouldn't leave the airplane and let you do it yourself. So have confidence that, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, the other thing going along with that is that they're not going to give you the pre-solo written test unless you already have learned all that information somewhere. So they need to be reasonably confident that you're going to be able to answer those questions before they give you that test. So, and that's the easy part. So.
And try to, I know it's easy to say now, it's been a very, very long time since I soloed, but try to cognitively remember the experience as best you can, because when you get to be an old guy like me, I don't remember really anything about my solo. I mean, hardly anything. And it's because maybe I didn't specifically just sit there and go, this is one of those things I'm never, ever going to do again in my life, and I should really pay attention to everything. Just take it all in.
Yeah, nowadays you can just stick a GoPro to the windshield.
Yeah, we didn't have those back then.
Yeah.
You should have got someone to do a pencil picture of it for
it's a painting.
Yeah. Like as they're sitting there watching, like making a little watercolor painting.
Nice big cartoon of you nose down on the runway.
It was going to be a great painting, but unfortunately we ran out of gas and crashed.
Exactly.
Oh well.
No, I do. I mean, actually, I don't remember taking I vaguely remember taking the pre-solo written test. But I remember that it was not, it's certainly not the detailed stuff that you're going to do for your private pilot written test. It's more practical stuff. It's more like Fred was saying in the chat room, what do you need to know for right then and there for doing pattern work, for, operating the aircraft safely, so all of your V speeds, your stall speeds, that type of stuff. And that will be aircraft specific. So your instructor should have given you that information already. But I do remember very well my first solo. I remember a lot of those details. Don't think
you remember a lot because you're such a young person.
Yes, but one day I imagine when I am perhaps a little bit older, I will still remember all of those details. I hope.
I hope so. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So finally, Max, good luck. And by now, maybe you've already, accomplished your solo. And if you have, write back and let us know, or I say write back, send us a message via the internets, and we'll be able to share in the elation of soloing with you.
Exactly.
All right.
Hey, before we move on, I have a quick, just administrative question.
Yes.
Is there a feedback folder for this episode, or are we just going out of the, is there a separate?
Yeah. Is it not shared with you guys?
I don't have it.
I've got it. 286.
How did you get it?
Oh, because he's probably using the main account. Hang on.
Oh.
Good call, Steph. I forgot to do that.
Steph, you'll try and synchronize that folder, and we want to speak to you for 10 minutes.
Exactly. That's the other problem. I'm probably better off just listening to what you read out and trying to remember everything that's said.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
So I figured out my problem with Evernote and synchronized folders. When you reach the magic number of 250, then that's the maximum number.
You can't have any more folders.
Yeah. So what I'm doing now is I'm going back to the early episodes, and the oldest episode, I'm just like dumping everything out of that folder, and I'm kind of reclaiming it and renaming it for the current episode.
So no, all that history going down the tubes.
Oh, well.
It's being flushed away.
You know what? I think it's been recorded somewhere, so you might be able to find it. No.
I think you're right. I think that we may have some audio recorded regarding all the stuff that we talked about on the show. Anyway, did you get anything yet? Okay.
Yes.
There you go. Sorry about that stuff. Dana will be looking for it as well, so I'm glad you said something. Okay.
Well, I got it on my phone anyway. My computer's never going to get it, so I'm going to look at it there.
Okay. Well, that was the first one. Next one is, so I'll give you a little bit more time. We're going to listen to some audio feedback from Steve.
Hi, Captain Jeff and the whole APT crew. In order of appearance, Captain Dana, Dr. Steph, Miami Rick, and Captain Nick. My name is Steve Andrus. I'm a captain on Alaska Airlines. I've been here for 27 years. I did my first 13 years in the right seat of the MD-82-83, and I've been a captain on the 737 for the past 14 years. Before that, I was in the Air Force flying KC-135s in Japan, then RC-135s operating out of Shimia in the Aleutian Islands, Athens, Greece, and Mildenhall in the UK. I don't have a question, but I do have a few comments. First, I started to listen to APG back at episode 235, but I wanted to know more of the development of the show, the characters and the background behind the jokes. So I went back to the beginning, APG 1. And then I found out APG had a beginning. So I began with the Catholic pilot. I'm currently on episode 195, and I'll play it at normal speed. But not to worry, I don't have APG syndrome. If I did, I'd have to declare it on my FA medical. And besides, I can quit anytime I want. In fact, just the other day, I didn't listen to APG at all. I put APG away and listened instead to Omega Tau. Marcus was interviewing some RAF F4 pilot about bear bombers. So see, no problem here. Second, there's a CFII down in Ocala, Florida, Jason Shepard. His mantra is, a good pilot is always learning. I don't know him, but I've tried to adopt his philosophy. Into APG, I thought, I know what happens on my side of the cockpit door, but thinking I might learn something and applying Jason's mantra, I listened, and the more I did, the more I gained, learning from crashes, incidents, the how and why of things, and finding links to more information outside the show, such as the Children of Magenta. As a result, I think I'm a better pilot and captain. And finally, I enjoy the show very much. Listening to you all makes my commute to LAX bearable, the yard work easier, and painting the house go a little quicker. To show my appreciation, I became a Patreon of the show. One of the podcast reviewers a while back said he liked the podcast better when it was just Captain Jeff and less Airbus Boeing bantering taking place. Although I disagree with him, I think there was a time for just Captain Jeff. You made the show, but the show, well, I was going to say matured. Maybe that's pushing it. The show evolved to become what it is. For me, it's like hangar flying, bouncing experiences, opinions on questions or events off pilots or the APG community, with the result of being more informed. Sometimes the information is not even aviation related. Micah, for one, has provided some very good non-aviation information over the years. I liked his piece on journalism. As for the bantering, well, we all do that. When I was on the MD, we called the 737 the dark side. And now here I am, on the dark side. Anyway, again, great show. I hope to meet you all sometime. Thanks.
No, Steve, the dark side is the Airbus fleet. Come on. Get it right.
Hang on a bit. We bring light to pilots.
Is that the motto of Airbus?
No, it'd be a good one, though. We are the light side.
Okay. Sure.
Boeing at the dark side. They're the evil ones.
Oh, here we go. Here's that banter everybody loves.
The company that swallows up all those other guys and paints Boeing on their aircraft and claims them for their own.
Anyway, Steve, so nice to hear from you. What do you say, 747 pilot? I think he started off by saying what he was currently flying.
737.
737. Yeah.
37, 47, whatever.
They're the same thing, basically.
Yeah.
Boeing.
Pretty much.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dark
Yeah,
side.
they're all evil.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for thank you for taking that. By the way, Nick, do you ever listen to the very end of the show in the last, I don't know, handful of episodes?
Always to the bitter end, Jeff, including the little extras to get on. And I did hear that little snippet you put on to the Eclipse
Your
show.
words.
Yeah,
Not
but they
mine.
were taken out of context.
Yeah, absolutely they were. And if you want to know what we're talking about, you just got to listen to the very end of the audio show, and then you'll hear Nick say something shocking, actually.
As soon as I leave here, I'm going to listen to that because I have not listened to that. It's on the Eclipse.
I was just waiting for a suitable moment to get my own back, Jeff. I wasn't going to bring it up or anything. I was just next time we meet, I was just going to clip your ear when you weren't looking.
It's about, I don't know, probably the last half dozen or more shows at the very end. And after the Roadrunner beep beep and Paul Harvey saying good day, and then there's something right there that you need to listen for before the down. What do we call that? No More Airplanes. The wonderful piece that Miami Hick came up with, and then of course the dulcet tones of Hillel doing the legal disclaimer. We are big time now. We have a legal disclaimer at the very end of the show.
I think we should have an illegal disclaimer
we should probably
as well.
put one of those in there as well. Yes. Anyway, so check it out, Steph.
Yeah, clearly I've listened.
Yes, of course you have.
Of course I have.
Okay.
All right.
Any other comments about Steve's audio feedback before we move on to some more audio feedback?
Well, I have great sympathy with him having to go back all that distance. And no, of course you haven't got APG syndrome. None of us do. No, we're immune to it.
Oh, that's right. I should.
But definitely do not declare it on your medical because that's immediate grounding.
That'll be it.
Yeah.
But there is some experimental medication out there. Let's see what
that is true.
Why, hello there. My name is Miami Hick, and I'm here to talk to you today about an embarrassing subject that no one likes to talk about: APG syndrome. Do you have a constant pain in your neck from always looking up at airplanes? Have you tried to grow your own Captain Jeff mustache? Do you think of Miami Rick every time you hear a cricket? Think of Captain Nick when you hear a frog croak. Think of Dana whenever you eat Boston baked beans. Do you think of Dr. Steph whenever you get stuck with a needle? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you are suffering from APG syndrome. Well, suffer no more. Introducing Go Around the Ceiling. With only 36 daily doses of an easy-to-swallow pill, you can be free of your symptoms with Go Around the Ceiling. Talk to your doctor today and find out if go-around acetylene is right for you. Like all medicine, go-around acetylene has side effects which include headache, nausea, vomiting, stomach bleeding, bleeding from the ears, nose, and eyes, uncontrolled diarrhea, stomach cramps, yellowing of the teeth, hair, and toenails, warts, hair loss, dry mouth, constipation, and stomach cramps.
I'd say just stay with the APG syndrome. Those
Yeah.
side effects sound pretty nasty.
Yeah, you can get stomach cramps twice, apparently.
Twice. Yep.
The other thing I just noticed for the first time is that you have to take 36 daily doses.
Daily doses. Yeah. You'll spend most of your time working on the treatment during the day.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. Just deal with it. But Steve's, as you said, he does not have the syndrome because he listened to the Omega Tau podcast and the episode about that dude chasing bear bombers. So obviously he doesn't have the syndrome.
Yeah, that was the event that sucked me into this whirlpool of despair.
You curse Marcus's name on a daily basis, don't you? Marcus.
Absolutely. I've got Marcus to thank for that.
Okay. Do you have just a few more minutes, Steph, for me to play this next piece of audio?
I do. Yeah, I'm good.
Excellent. Let's see here if I can only find it. Here we go. This is from Jonathan.
Hey, Captain Jeff and crew. This is Jonathan here in Tampa. I am a aspiring private pilot. I've got about 35 hours, so hopefully within the next few months, money and time permitting, I will have my private pilot's license. My home airport is Peter O'Knight in downtown Tampa. You probably know of it, Captain Jeff, because I know you fly into the area. It's sort of well known because it only has a 4,000-foot runway, but a military cargo plane mistook it for a MacDill Air Force Base about 2 or 3 years ago, and there's a bunch of videos online of it landing and taking off after they unloaded a lot of weight off of it. But anyhow, my question is about Tampa International Airport. Local question, and my question is, why don't I ever see any large aircraft, 747s, A340s, etc. here in Tampa? Is it constraints of the runway length? I think they're both 10,000 feet runways, the two north-south runways. Is it just a supply and demand issue? There's no airlines that need anything that big here. Is it because we don't have that many international flights? I know the 747 is slowly going into retirement, but even before that, barely ever see any unless president's in town or something. So that was my question. I love the show, love you guys. Would love to help set up a meetup here if you guys are ever in town. Or Captain Jeff, I know you're here all the time. Cigar City Brewery's right around the corner. I know the owner a little bit, and I know that you're a big fan of it. There's also lots of other microbrews popping up all over town. Some great places, especially in Ybor City. There's 3 or 4 breweries there now. Anyhow, I'd be happy to help set up a meetup here in town. And I'll stop rambling on, and I will wait to hear my answer on the air in a few weeks. Thank you, guys. Love the show. Talk to you later.
I've never heard of High Line Cigar City Brewing.
None of us really care for it.
I'm drinking a High Line right now, actually. And yes, I would love to go to Cigar City Brewery and do a tour and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
especially if he kind of sort of maybe knows the owner. That'd be cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Anyway. We'll take you up on it, Jonathan.
Yes.
Hopefully, maybe by when did he send this in? Let's see.
The 11th?
Just the other day. Okay. So not too long ago, but maybe he's even that much closer to finishing up his private pilot certificate. So,
yeah, I bet he is. Yeah. Please let us know, Jonathan, if you
do.
Yeah, if you are getting close. You said you were. So let us know if you've reached that goal. And let's see, he had a question about Tampa International. The runways are you're right, they're both very long runways. It's not a runway limitation thing for the wide bodies to be ever present at Tampa International, and of course it's an international airport. They have international flights. It's more of the fact that it's not one of the major hubs for any of the airlines, but it is a destination that Acme flies to quite a bit. And I believe years ago we did fly. I remember flying the L-1011 in there a lot. The westernmost runway is the one that's that we always used and most air carriers used, except Southwest. They end up using the east runway, 19 and
19 left.
Yeah, 19 left. Yes, and they do that because it's closest to that side of the where their terminals are on that side of the airport, and that's a little bit shorter runway, but it's not a short runway. I mean, as far as
8,300 feet.
Okay, thanks. I was going to say it was probably between 8,000 and 9,000 feet long, and the runway on the westernmost runway is like what, 11,000?
11,002.
Okay. Woo. Wow.
Made that extra
Pretty
2
good,
feet. Yeah, that's good.
I knew it
I'm
was.
cheating. I'm looking at it right now, but
Yeah, I'm just relying upon my memory. But and occasionally you'll see. I think one of the foreign carriers does operate a Dreamliner into Tampa, and so you're starting to see some of those airlines operate that. Wow, sounds like.
I think it's a fire alarm in my hotel. Hang on.
Do you need to go?
Well, I'll just listen to see what they say. Usually it's a false alarm.
Wow.
I thought it was pretty bad a minute ago when I had like a ambulance right outside.
Oh, that was you? I thought
that was
I assumed that was Nick's audio.
No, that was me. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. That's just part of the ambiance of doing the show live from various locations. Obviously, we don't have dedicated studios, but that's just the way it works in this world of podcasting. At least most podcasters and podcasters.
I think I'm safe for the moment.
Okay, good.
Not gonna...
We'll let you know if we see some like flames.
Yeah, I'm going to stick some wet towels under the door just to be on the safe side.
So I see that Dana is in the picture now, and I'm not sure if he's ready to say anything to us or not.
Good afternoon.
He is.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon, Dana. Welcome to the show in progress. Perfect timing.
Well,
yeah,
it's good to be here.
Good to see you. So how have you been?
Yeah, fine. Today was low key. Made it on time. Didn't have to wait 39 minutes or 38 minutes, whatever it was, for the hotel van tonight.
Thank goodness.
So it was an uneventful day, just the way we like it. A broken APU, but glad to be here because we can always use external power and air to start the engine. So,
how did you break it? Did you like stick a wrench into the hole or something, or what?
No, I had a little flatulence when I walked by it, and it couldn't breathe properly, so it shut itself down.
I understand.
No, we were starting it to provide water for coffee. It is the $100 cup of coffee, and I noticed it was spooling up and then spooled right back down. Called maintenance over, and they said, well, you know what they'd normally do? Let me have your logbook and your orange book, which is our MEL, and away they ticketed and MEL'd it and pulled us a couple circuit breakers, and away we went. So it was broken.
A lot of people are wondering exactly what you're talking about when you talk about why would you have to start the APU to get a cup of coffee?
All right, well, let's explain that. Okay, on our particular aircraft, and I can't speak for other airplanes because, well, I've not flown a whole different variety of aircraft. We have a water tank. In order to pressurize the water tank, we have to have some type of air source. Now, we do have a small remote pump that you can press a button that will go ahead and pressurize the tank if it's working. In this case, we tried the button several times and it was not working. They had just filled the water. So when you fill the water, all the pressure leaves the tank. And so to build back that pressure, that pump is supposed to work, but it didn't. So in order to make a cup of coffee, you need to have water, of course. So now you have to start the APU, which provides air to the air conditioning system. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it wasn't on silent. And that is what allows us to make the coffee. So it's instead of $100 hamburger flying somewhere, it's $100 cup of coffee, just so the passengers can have coffee.
Right. Yeah. That just helps us get some head pressure on the head space above the water tank, and that little tiny pump that Dana is referring to. Usually, if you have enough patience, it'll eventually provide enough pressure. It has to fill that volume of airspace above the water in the tank before it can actually start pushing the water through the system. But when you get the APU started and you tap the air from the APU, it happens almost instantaneously. So anyway, Liz was asking about where you are, Dana.
I am in Baltimore, Maryland for the second day in a row. Remember the last time I was in Baltimore, the city blew up. So this is my first trip back to Baltimore since that last incident where the street blew up.
But you're not in downtown, though, right?
I am not. I am by the airport, and I'm kind of happy we're doing the show tonight, honestly, because there's nothing at all around this hotel. There's a bar called Champions downstairs, which has Mets and Mets food, and their happy hour special is a $6 12-ounce Budweiser. Oh no, 16 ounce. So when I was in Detroit, I took the liberty to stop at this place called the Plum Market, which it's kind of like a Whole Foods, if anybody knows what Whole Foods is, inside the airport, and they have nice fresh salads and so forth. So I grabbed a curried cauliflower salad and a vegan protein salad. So I'm having actually no meat this evening.
It sounds really good, though.
Yeah, it's. I actually had, because I was going to get the curry chicken because I love the curry chicken, but it comes in a little package like this, and they gave me a sample and I tried it, and it's very tasty, and I love curry.
Good.
So
yeah, I do too.
It's a bit spendy. It's $5 for that little container, but listen, it's actually healthy compared to most options, and the only option outside the hotel here is McDonald's. Not my favorite place. Yeah.
Chicken nuggets.
Yeah. You want to know what? I want to be able to fit into the cockpit. I won't fit in the cockpit if I eat crap like that. So I never eat fast food. Try not to, at least. So Liz just said she noticed that I had a beard last time. Well, yes, Liz, I had to come back to work. So unlike Captain Nick across the pond. Oh, wait a minute.
He's just noticing something. What happened?
Wow.
Dana's looking with interest at the
wow,
video.
Nick shaved his beard as well.
Well, I saw you were growing one, so I thought, well, there's no way I want to be accidentally mistaken for Dana. So I instantly shaved mine off.
Well, now we look alike again. They're going to grow yours back, or what?
It's 2 days worth, and it's getting there.
I can't tell who I'm looking at here. Am I looking at Dana or am I looking at Nick? You guys look like identical twins.
I'm so confused.
Wow.
Until we open our mouths.
Wow.
Okay. This is fun. Welcome, Dana. And
glad to be here.
Steph will be leaving shortly.
See, yes. I come and she leaves. Yeah, scare her away.
I know. I'm so sorry.
That's the way you are with women, I guess, huh?
Story of my life.
Yeah, me too.
I love you, Dana.
I know. I love you too.
But with that, actually, I probably am going to head out unless there was other feedback that you were saving for me there.
No,
Excellent.
I think that there's really nothing specifically for you. So yeah. So this will be a good time. So thanks for joining us today, Steph. And
of course.
Have a great evening and a great week.
Thanks. Y'all too. And I'll see everyone next week.
Bye, Steph. And chat next week.
Bye. Yep,
bye.
Absolutely. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So let's see. We just finished with Jonathan and his questions about Tampa International and Cigar City Brewery. I think we finished answering the question about why you didn't. Oh, no, we didn't really. We're kind of in the middle of that. So again, Tampa is one of those airports that is not a big, international hub, but they do have international flights, and it's just only airlines that operate airplanes like the 787 and perhaps the Airbus 350 that are better at those. What do they call those kind of routes that
long thin routes?
Long thin routes. Yeah, that's it. So yeah. It's a spoke and not a hub, main man, Micah says, of course. And but it's just nowadays it's better suited for the narrow body type airplanes that are a little bit more efficient. So there you have
trying
it.
to say that no one wants to go there?
No, I think Tampa's a beautiful place. I love Tampa. It's a lot of people want to go there. In fact, we fly there. I don't know how many flights per day, but probably at least 9 or 10 flights from Atlanta.
Yeah, almost hourly.
Yeah, and then we also serve it from the New York airports as well. So it's a popular destination. All right, let's continue with some more audio feedback. This one from, well, I'll let you hear him introduce himself.
Hey, APG crew, it's Mark from Maine, or let's just say Maniac Mark. We know we've got the main man, Micah, but we just refer to me as Maniac Mark. Maybe not. But anyways, so yeah, first I just wanted to say thanks, Captain Jeff, for meeting my daughter and I up in Maine when you were up here recently. Really enjoyed meeting you. It was a real pleasure with you and Micah. Really enjoyed it. It was a great time. So my question for the feedback here is this. I was always wondering when you're on a layover, when you visit a different town, you have to stay overnight, whether or not that your lodging is paid for by the airline, or whether that's something you guys have to pay for. Your food and everything while you're away from home. I assumed that the airline paid for it, but maybe not. I used to work on a ship many years ago, and when we were commuting, everything was kind of covered by the company and everything. But I was just wondering whether or not it was kind of the same way working for the airline. On another note, I did get a prescription for go around Dicillin, but the side effects, I was reading the label, and yeah, I don't know if I'm really going to go through with taking this course of medicine, because I'm really concerned about that. So anyways, I'll let you know next time, see how it goes. All right, guys. Well, thanks for everything, and thanks for a great show. I always look forward to it. All right, take care.
Well, thank you, Maniac Mark. You are now so dubbed. Yeah, I agree. Probably the best thing to do is to stay away from the go around Dicillin, because it sounds like the side effects are horrible. So, I'm pretty sure it works the same way for Captain Nick's airline as it does for Dana and my airline, where the company pays for your accommodations. If they didn't, then we would probably be camping or staying at the Motel 6s around the place and bunking up with other crew members just to save some money, because airline pilots are notorious for being very, let's see, what's the right word to use? Frugal.
That was exactly the word I was going to use, frugal.
Frugal. And I think that, what do they say? That copper wire was invented by two airline pilots fighting over a penny?
Yeah, two L-1011 captains.
So, yeah.
Or in my case, being that I'm Jewish, I'll just stop there.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Make my editing a lot easier. Let's see. So, yeah, the airline pays for it. And the way it works at Acme is that all this stuff is contracted. The company has a department that is called crew accommodations, and they go out and survey various hotels, both hotels that are near the airport for the shorter layovers, and also hotels that are a little bit farther away from the airport, usually in a downtown area or an area where there is a lot of shopping and restaurants and other activities for the crews. And so they seek out appropriate accommodations, and then the union that represents the pilots at Acme also are involved with looking at touring and choosing these locations as well. And there are certain minimum requirements for, like restaurants nearby, shopping, that kind of thing. As I mentioned before, internet used to be where internet was not considered part of the contract. So sometimes you go to a lot of the time, most of the time, you go to a hotel just a few years back that if you wanted to have internet access, you would have to pay for it yourself. But now that's all included in part of the contract negotiations with our company and the hotels. And luckily, with Acme, the hotels that are chosen for our cruise are very, very nice hotels. They're definitely not subpar. They're at least above average accommodations, or sometimes even luxury accommodations. So that's very nice. And what we do is, since it's all taken care of beforehand, is that we get into the airport for our layover location. Transportation, that's another aspect of it. That's also provided by our company. And if it's a hotel that has a shuttle service associated with the hotel, then it's usually their hotel van that moves us from the airport to the hotel. If not, if it's one of the longer distance locations, longer layover hotels, a lot of times we'll contract, or the company will contract with a local private carrier to provide that transportation for us. And again, we don't pay anything for that. We as crew members don't, the company does. And then we arrive at the hotel and they see us in our uniforms, and then they pull a clipboard out or a notebook. And they, a lot of times they'll say what airline, and, we say Acme, and then they find the appropriate clipboard or the appropriate notebook. And it has all of our flight information, inbound flight information, outbound flight information, what time the van is going to leave, or your arranged or scheduled transportation is going to be picking you up in the next day for travel back out to the airport. And they hand you the keys after you fill out your name and employee number, and that's it. So there's no transaction made at all. We don't we don't have a credit card that we give them, or we don't pay for it out of our own pocket and then claim an expense statement or whatever after the fact. And the next day we just hand our keys in, or sometimes I'll just leave my key in the room, and we take the transportation back to the airport, and that's it. So it's very, very easy and convenient. Now the downside to this is, because our airline is contracting with these major hotel chains, is that since it's such a low rate, the hotel chains say we're not going to give any points for your crew members staying at the hotel. And so that's the downside of all this, that if we were paying for it on our own dime and doing expense statements and that kind of thing, we probably would be able to keep all those hotel stay credits and all that kind of stuff. But the way it works for us is that we don't get to do that. And I mean, there are some exceptions, but most of the time that's the way it is. And if I had to choose one or the other way to do it, I like the way it is right now. It's just not a hassle at all for us to get to where we're going. You're usually very tired at the end of the day, and you don't have to worry about doing paperwork after you get back from a trip, or once a month or whatever. So
yeah, we don't get air miles either, do we, Jeff? I think that's a bit unfair.
No air miles, unless you happen to have a credit card from your company that you use for day-to-day transactions. Yeah. So how about you, Nick? The same kind of a system?
Exactly. Yep. The union are really, they just have to tick a few boxes to make sure that the room is suitable. So it's got drawer covers you can pull over the windows that make the place completely light proof. There's food available 24 hours. Those kind of facilities for people who are traveling at odd hours of the day and night and need to be able to sleep when they're resting for a flight, perhaps in the middle of the day. And that it's also reasonably quiet and they're, reasonably comfortable. But we don't get to choose where they are. The company just actually have done very well in the past for giving us hotels that are in great locations. Very rarely have we been stuck out in quiet spots. And because we're long haul, and we usually have at least 18, perhaps 24 hours as a minimum between flights, we inevitably go to a nice spot. We never use airport hotels.
Yeah, that's a little bit, because Dana and I are flying both, a combination of short, medium, not really any long haul at all. So, but I have to say, and I have noticed, I've been with Acme for more than 28 years, and it's a little bit cyclical. I'd say for the most part, most of the accommodations that I've been in over the years have all been pretty nice. But there are times when the economy is really doing well that you sometimes see the accommodations not quite so luxurious, because that means that the hotel chains are doing a good business, and the crew business they're not yielding as much profit from, and they'll say, I don't think we want you here anymore. And they'd rather have the business travelers and the leisure travelers, and they make more money that way. But when things kind of go south in the economy, then all of a sudden Dana and I are staying at nicer accommodations. So it's interesting how that happens.
There are some cities where the contracts change every year, 18 months regularly. We're always hunting out new hotels. There are other places we've been at for years, and I can't imagine this is ever moving.
Yeah, that's true. There are some locations, some layover hotels that we stay in that it's the same hotel we've been in since I've been with Acme, and others it seems like every time you lay over there, you're in a different place. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, actually, my hometown is one of the hotels that we've been at for ever since I can remember, since the early '90s.
Oh, it's interesting. When we're there, I have been moved around in a clutch of about 5 hotels, and they're all actually within a stone's throw of each other. And we just seem to swing from one to other. And, next year it'll be the one next door. And it's just like they're fighting for the contract amongst each other. And, new hotel wins it. But, you might as well be in the same hotel. You're going to exactly the same restaurants and things nearby. So it doesn't make a difference to us.
Yeah, we see the same exact thing. And in fact, a lot of those hotels that you're kind of rolling over to every few months or every year or two, a lot of times the name has changed, because you look at your rotation or your trip sheet and go, oh, we're staying at a different hotel. And then you get there and you go, oh, no, this is the same hotel. It's a different name. So I think there must be some kind of an accounting thing for the hotels to like sell their properties. And then another, it goes from a Hilton to a Hyatt to a Crown Plaza, and then the next time you're there, it's back to the Hilton again. So
yeah, I've seen that happen lots.
Well, I would say the most important thing of any hotel room is that it doesn't matter where it is, as long as it's clean.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most important thing to me. I want to walk into a nice, fresh, clean hotel room, fresh linens, and not find hair in my bathroom, and the toilet seat not washed, and find stains in my sheets. I mean, those are things that immediately turn me off. And so far, it happens occasionally, but for the most part, the higher end hotel chains tend to have a better record of keeping clean facility. And even my bed at home right now, it's causing me some major back problems, and a really good test me coming back out on the road after being off so long. And amazingly enough, sleeping in the tent and sleeping in that blow-up bed, my back was doing really well because I blew it up nice and firm. So it was a test last night, and the hotel I'm staying at here in Baltimore has excellent beds. They're firm but very comfortable. And guess what? I woke up this morning with no back pain. So, that's a very important thing. It's the comfort of the bed as well.
Do you carry one of those ultraviolet lights around with you, Dana, to check for bodily fluids?
You'll never find a good room. I have the philosophy is I don't really want to know.
Yeah, I'm the same as you, Jeff. I'd rather not know.
I'm not going to go over to get it right now, but my remote control always has a condom on it, and I got to quantify that.
Who keeps putting these condoms on?
I hope it's not a lubricated one.
Is it some joker that's going around your room just before you get there?
No, I call it a condom, but if the bag that they use for the ice, you can use the bag for ice for your ice bucket. I take that. I put my hand inside the bag. I grab the remote control. I wrap the bag around the remote control, tie it off, and then my remote control stays clean. It's the two dirtiest things in a hotel room are the remote control and the telephone.
I'm the opposite. I'm thinking if I'm not exposing myself to all kinds of germs, then I'm going to die of something. So I take the remote and actually start licking it. That's the opposite end of this. No, I'm not. I don't really do that. Just kidding. But I'm not.
My remote never works.
Well,
Yeah.
the hotel rooms are far cleaner than our flight decks are. I can assure you that.
Yeah, I don't even worry about I don't care if it's that clean or not. I mean, I never notice anything, gross. If I saw something that was really grossly out of whack, then I might say something. But nah, I'm not very picky at all. Anyway, so good. That was a good discussion about hotels. Let's see. Fabian sent us some audio feedback. We have a lot of audio feedback for this show, which we love. So take it away.
Hi, APGS. Captain Jeff, Dr. Steph, Nick, Dana, hopefully Rick, and whoever might be co-hosting. ATPL and aerospace student Fabian from Germany here. I got a question for you, but to get there, I need to back up a little. I did a sightseeing flight a few weeks back with a childhood friend of mine and his girlfriend. And afterwards, with my sister and my father. Since I only own one handset, I borrowed two, one of which was the Bose A20, which I was keen on trying. I started the engine of the PA-28 Cadet, plugged in the headset, and pushed the button to activate the noise cancelling. Absolutely brilliant. The engine sound was almost gone. Another feature of the headset is that you can plug in a secondary sound source, like a smartphone, to listen to music or the latest APG. Since I don't know how exactly the Bose A20 handles the input from multiple sources, and I know Jeff owns a Bose A20, here's the question. Does the headset shut down the secondary audio input when there's input via the Aviation plug, be it an ATC call or the intercom? Does stuff you hear from your phone via the secondary audio input get recorded by the cockpit voice recorder? I know you're not allowed to plug in music into the secondary input when under sterile cockpit, but I guess the NTSB needs a way to know what caused you to crash the aircraft on landing. But if the audio smartphone feeds the headset isn't on the cockpit voice recorder, they will never know you crashed the aircraft because Nick's latest plane tales scared the heck out of you. I hope that picture makes it clear what my question is pointing at. On APG 283, you had the recording of the ATC controller asking if Captain Jeff was on board, but your answers weren't heard on the frequency. You guessed it was because the controller worked different frequencies. During a college field trip to Eurocontrol in Maastricht, they told us whenever a controller is working more than one frequency, they mirror what they receive on one of these frequencies to the other frequencies. So everyone on one of the frequencies the controller is working will hear everything the controller hears. Why does the FAA not do this? And for our friends in London in the ATC there, do they do it too? Anyway, I got some good news from my side. I passed my commercial multi-engine instruments check right about a week ago and will start MCC theory next Monday, August 14th. MCC stands for Multi-Crew Cooperation, and it's a rating required to operate aircraft that require 2 pilots. Theory will take 4 days. The following week, I will have 6 simulator sessions to complete the rating. After that, I can apply to the airlines. Thanks for doing this great podcast and for creating the community. I can't wait for the Berlin meetup next month. Always happy landings, Fabian. By the way, that was a compliment for the really good plane tales, Nick. I really enjoy them.
Well, if I ever hear about a crash that's caused by one, I'll have to do a plain tale about it.
Yes. Well, I think the first thing we should do is give him a big round of applause.
Absolutely. Brilliant.
For accomplishing the check ride.
Congratulations, Fabian.
Successfully. And that's awesome. So it won't be long at all before Fabian is part of the world of... Why is this not stopping? There we go.
Well, he needs a big chair, that's for sure.
Yeah, he does. An extra long round of applause for Fabian. So the next step is the, what do you call it? MCC, multi-crew collaboration?
I'd have thought just being part of the APG community would automatically qualify you for
You'd
that.
think, yeah. But,
yeah.
Fabian, he's a typical straight man when it comes to a comedy team there.
Yeah, he's perfect, isn't
he? Yes.
By the way, that's something I never had to do. So it must have been introduced after I became an airline pilot.
Yeah, that's one of those things.
No, it's the reason why they introduced it.
Oh, right. Yeah. It says the man with the baseball bat.
Only kidding.
So I'll start in the order in which he asked the questions. I hope I get them all. The Bose A20, I used to have the Bose X, but now it's the Bose A20, the newest one I got a few months back. And I love it. And the noise reduction is awesome. And if you buy the one that has the Bluetooth capability, which I have, and the only reason that I have it is so that I can connect my cell phone via Bluetooth and actually have a conversation with my dispatcher while I'm on the ground. The flight is not underway in any way, and I can just use my headset and headset microphone through this thing, which works beautifully. And I've read the instructions that say that you can use this to listen to music and podcasts and that kind of thing through the Bluetooth capability. I'm not sure. People have told me in the general aviation world that it works like a charm. In fact, Dr. Steph and I were talking about it before we started the recording today. And there is a switch here at the bottom that allows you to select either the Bluetooth off. You can go to the next position, which is mix, which mixes whatever you have input either via Bluetooth or via a 3.5 millimeter jack at the end of this thing. And it doesn't, when air traffic control or any other signal is in your headset, it does not do anything to the other signal that's going on at the same time. But if you move this to the mute position, so if you're listening to music in your general aviation airplane and air traffic control sends some kind of communication, whatever you're listening to will be muted. And I'm not sure if it stops at that point or if it just mutes the sound and then it brings it back up when it senses no other signal present. I'm not sure how it works. So that's the way, that's my understanding how this A20 works. And also your question about whether or not the signal that you're listening to in your headset, is that somehow being recorded on the cockpit voice recorder. And I'm pretty sure it is not. And the signal, whatever thing you're listening to, whether it be via Bluetooth or the 3.5 millimeter stereo jack, is only in your headset. It's not going into the aircraft system at all. So it's only into your ear cups. So if you're listening to plane tales and you crash the airplane, we'll never know. It'll be a mystery. So that's my understanding of the way the A20 works, and it's a great headset. I highly recommend it. It is not cheap, but as I mentioned before, the Bose Aviation X, the original Bose Aviation headset, I had for 17 years, and it still works. It's just that it was showing some frayed wires and that kind of thing, and that was my excuse to buy a new one before I retire. So this will take me through retirement and beyond, and I love it. Bose makes some great aviation headsets.
Yeah.
And I think most of the other aviation headset manufacturers out there, the active noise reduction headsets, have the same kind of systems in their devices as well.
You know, I heard something very interesting when I was out on the motorcycle rally. I was talking to, how they have the air molded aviation headsets, and you can use that type of a headset. Well, the guy said something to me very interesting. He said, active noise reduction raises your blood pressure. I haven't been able to sit down and do the research on it, but I mean, I don't know if it's a selling point for him or whether it's a medical truth, but you better yeah, exactly.
Go ahead, keep talking.
It's supposedly because of something with the frequency. I have no idea, but I'm a Sennheiser user. Has a similar interface that you can plug in versus a Bluetooth. When I fly general aviation, and I'm not admitting this on air, but I've had the occasional use of a Bluetooth. Even in GA, you're not even supposed to use it.
No, I think you can actually in GA. I think it's allowed.
If it's through the intercom system, yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, certainly not in our cockpit. It's not legal for us to use. And the only way anything gets to the voice recorder is through the microphone. And
now, I
the area
wish
microphone.
if somebody out there listening can help me out, and I know it's probably not authorized, but remember, I fly for Acme Airlines, and I believe that it's okay with Acme. I would love to have the ability to play something through my phone and actually play it through the PA system at the same time that I'm using my microphone on my headset. It's kind of like a mixer that I'm using right now for doing the show. And I could have like music playing in the back, not in the air, of course, but on the ground. Like, have some music playing in the background or some sound effects or whatever. I think that would be a lot of fun. But they don't make anything like that as far as I know. Probably not something that airline management would want me to use. But I think
probably not.
Be a lot of fun. He talked about radio frequencies, and this is one of the things I think that all of us can agree to is maddening, because a lot of times, especially like late in the day or early in the day, when air traffic control sectors are working multiple frequencies, and we don't know that they're working multiple frequencies. So we can hear the controller talking, but we cannot hear the response from whatever frequency they're working. And they sometimes seem to get a little impatient with us or frustrated when we happen to talk when somebody else is talking to them, but we can't we can't hear the other frequency, so we don't know that somebody's talking on the other frequency. And Fabian, that system that you were talking about over in Germany or in Europe, where if they're working multiple frequencies, they have a system to project whatever is being transmitted on those other frequencies so that you can hear it as well. That would be wonderful. I'm all for that. I wish that we had that kind of a system here in the US. I don't know why we don't. I don't know if we don't have the capability to do that. I'm not sure why. But don't you guys agree that when they're working multiple frequencies, it's kind of frustrating?
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, it was very frustrating in Minneapolis today. Sitting there trying to get you contact clearance delivery for I think it's clearance delivery for pushback to get your name in the hat. And then, of course, they'll tell you to monitor the ground to tell you, clear for pushback or whatever. Well, today it took us almost 10 minutes getting ordered in edgewise because the guy that was working clearance delivery and ground at the same time, and he was going, I mean, when I say a mile a minute, he was talking constantly and not even taking a breath. And every time he tried to get a word in edgewise, he would just say, hold on, and would not even acknowledge it. So the only reason why I knew it was the same guy is because I happened to have ground frequency turned on at the same time, and I heard him working both of them at a major airport. That should never be the case.
Right.
That's always a worry. Jeff, the only thing I can see, and I'm in agreement, I'd love to hear what other people are saying on the to the controller that I'm working. The only problem I can hear with that or think of that is that sometimes having constant RT can be a bit tiring. And if you're not trying to butt in all the time on your controller or get constant instructions, so you're like in the cruise, then cutting out all those other aircraft transmissions that you don't really need to hear is much more relaxing rather than having to have a radio in your ear that's going off all the time.
That's true.
That would be my only thought there. However, and I've also just pulled up an occupational health and safety website here, which says that in addition to hearing loss, prolonged exposure to noise, including low-frequency noise, is known to cause many detrimental physiological and psychological effects, including fatigue, anxiety, depression, loss of concentration, reduced productivity, headaches, and high blood pressure. So this website is actually saying that noise cancelling, because that's what it's specifically about, noise cancelling headsets reduces your blood pressure.
Huh. Well, I'm taking my blood pressure right now just to see. Of course, I'm not using noise reduction. So,
do you have any blood pressure?
I do have blood pressure.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes, it's a good thing. I hear that it's good to have blood pressure, just not high blood pressure or low blood pressure. Yeah, interesting. I guess we'll have to do a little bit more research about that. I've never heard that. Dana.
Well, perhaps Dr. Steph could be put on the case. Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
That would
regarding
be
the, it seems to me, I don't know, I could be wrong about this, but most of the time in the world that Dana and I fly, the frequencies that have the controllers that are doing multiple frequencies, it seems like most of the time it's not the high altitude sectors, but the lower level center frequencies, or even the approach frequencies. But I could be wrong about that. I don't know.
I think you're wrong.
Okay.
I'm only kidding.
Oh, I definitely could be wrong. I just asked my wife. Ba-doom, bam. Oh, shoot. Okay, here we go.
Speaking of blood pressure.
Yes.
Oh, your wife.
Okay. Yes, sir. Were you going to say some more?
I was going to say, I find that it depends on the time of the day, really. If it's early in the morning, late at night, you'll find that any one of the upper level, mid-level, low-level approach or tower, they have a tendency of working multiple frequencies. It's just during the middle of days where it's really annoying.
Yeah. And they should have enough, they should hire enough people to work all those frequencies and not have to, have one person working multiple frequencies. I mean, I feel sorry for the controllers, honestly. Anyway, let's see. And the other thing he was talking about was the Berlin meetup. Again, that's, what was it, September 12th, I believe? Is that right? Or no, the 21st. Do you remember the dates for, I wish Steph was still here, when they're going to have the meetup in Berlin? I think if you go to Slack, let's see if I can find it here. The Berlin meetup is Friday the 22nd. Oh, I just happened to find it, like right off the bat.
Not even close, Jeff. You could say the 12th, would you? Only 10 days out.
That's when Nev is going to be in Dulles. So yes, not the 12th. It's the 22nd. Friday the 22nd at Tillman's Hotel, the Circus Hotel. And so if you want to join up in that meetup, I think that it would be a blast. I wish I could be there. So thanks for mentioning that, Fabian. And let's see, any other questions that he asked there? Again, congratulations on your commercial multi-engine instrument check ride.
Absolutely brilliant. Well done.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time before it's going to be pilot Fabian for some major European carrier, I'm sure. That's really
First officer Fabian. It rolls off the tongue, sort of.
First officer Fabian, just like first officer Mila. Very cool. By the way, have you guys? I think somebody sent in some feedback regarding this, and I'm sorry I don't remember who it was. But the EasyJet documentary / reality TV program going on right now. I believe, I don't know how many episodes they have in the can, but I just was watching the second episode of it on YouTube. I'm sure it was not a legal feed, but very interesting show. Have you been able to see any of that, Captain Nick or Dana?
Yeah, I watched them both. In fact, just after my last trip, I landed back, and it was my sim, that's right. And I thought, well, I've got to stay up a little bit, so I shall watch that. And I really enjoyed the first one. Second one, not quite so much, but they seem to have found an amusing slant on it. They're not taking themselves quite too seriously. So from that point of view, I think it's good.
Yeah, it's been, thank you, Liz. It's called EasyJet, Inside the Cockpit. And is that a BBC production?
I have a feeling it's on Channel 4. So even on the BBC, most of the productions are actually done by independent companies, and then the channel buys them. So
okay, yeah, I thought it's been entertaining, and it's interesting to see, some aspects that apply to all airlines around the world, as far as the first time that we land an airplane with passengers in it is the first time that we land an airplane with passengers in it, regardless of your system and whether you've actually flown the airplane or just a simulator or not. In this case, EasyJet, I guess, takes them out on what we used to call at Acme a bounce ride, but we don't do that anymore. Our guys and gals are not, landing the real jet until they're actually flying a revenue flight with passengers. So it's a interesting world out there. But the last episode, episode 2, focuses on this guy who's 20 years old, and I swear, he looks like he's still in high school to me. Very, very young.
yeah. He does have the youthful look. Mind you, I was called boy pilot for the first 2 tours I was in the Air Force. So I know how that feels. Yeah.
It's just not fair, is it?
By the way, I was listening to you guys talk about doing touch and goes on the last podcast.
Yeah.
And we do it slightly different. I like me red. Whoever's flying the airplane stays in flying the aircraft. And once you've settled on, we don't arm the spoilers, just like you say. Once we settle onto the runway, the training captain says, stand them up. So you stand the throttles up in the kind of vertical position. And he whacks the flap up a little bit and checks that the aircraft or trims it, retrims itself for takeoff. If not, he does it himself. And then he says toga, and I think they just rotated a pretty standard sort of 160 knots ish. I'm trying to remember. There's no, I don't think there's any set speed because you're well above a flying speed normally. And once you got toga in, the aircraft's going to accelerate like a dingbat because you're not usually very heavy when you're doing base training.
Yeah, there's no passengers aboard, just a few.
No. And so there's quite a big rotate required and an initial climb angle. And then pretty quickly we ease off the throttle setting back to climb, and then whack it downwind, and away you go for the next one. So I quite enjoy flying circuits. We don't get to do it normally.
Now, is that something they're doing still at your airline?
No, it's all zero flight sims now. So that means they can do everything that they need to in the simulator.
Yep, same thing with Acme. Oh well, the good old days, right?
They were good old days, and an airline not unlike mine. All the pilots that weren't actually in the flight deck doing their go, we used to get, or they used to get. Not me. I wouldn't do anything like this. They used to get food trays out, and you start off on the good big long airplane. You've got a long aisle all the way down to the back. So you'd stand on a food tray, and as the pilot at the front rotated, of course, the fuselage pitches up and accelerates to about 15 degrees. You could surf all the way down on the carpet, standing on a food tray, go whizzing past the seats. And then hopefully before you smack your face against the wall of the rear galley, he levels off. That's the, if you've done it right.
Now, come on, you know that professional pilots like us would never, ever do anything like that.
No, never, ever. I can imagine that would be great fun, though.
Oh, I would imagine it would be.
It sounds like a great time.
If only we had the opportunity to do anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
Were the aisles a little bit wider than they are now?
No, the 334. The 340-300 was the one I remember because that's the only one I ever did base training in. They were pretty wide, so they were they're twin aisle airplane, and they were good.
Nice,
wide enough to get your hips through without any problem at all.
That's funny. All right, well. Fabian, again, congratulations, and we're eager to hear about your next step in your journey. Iowa Matt writes in, he says, hope this note finds you all well. I've been saving up some episodes lately for the drive across the country. They're a great way to keep me awake. Wow, that's a change. Usually, Matt,
you'd be accused of the opposite.
To fall asleep. Okay. I wanted to share with you a couple photos from a recent flight I took on Kenmore Air in Seattle. It was a Father's Day gift that I finally got to redeem after my most recent 2 knee surgeries. I got to sit at the right seat. As an av geek, I was thrilled. I think I spent as much time looking inside as at the gorgeous San Juan Islands outside. Also, I wanted to see what a more modern cockpit than the Mad Dog has. Now that was a low blow, I guess. There, he sends a picture of I don't know. It looks to me like the interior of a de Havilland Beaver aircraft. I'm not sure. I mean, can you guys, based on the photo and the feedback, I know they fly Beavers and Otters and Caravans, but this cockpit looks looks pretty old, and I'm thinking if it is a beaver.
Nice beaver.
Thank you. I just had it stuffed.
I'm thinking that it's a nice beaver that you were flying there. That's very cool. I'll put the photo in the show notes so you can take a look at the interior of this cockpit. But Dana, do you think that it was a little bit of a low blow? He said that this is more modern than our cockpit.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a low blow, especially looking at that is a beaver's cockpit.
Okay.
And yeah, it has a throw over yoke. I don't know if you caught that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of a low blow.
Yeah, but it's a great airplane.
It's a great airplane. Does a fantastic job. It's flies in and out of some really remote locations with a lot of power. I think doesn't it have a PT6 on the front of it?
This one actually has a radial.
Radial.
Yeah, it's the old. I don't know what model it is, but it's a radial engine. In their on their website, they talk about the fact that they do all their maintenance and overhaul and everything else, and they said that this is like one of their workhorses in their fleet. And,
yeah, well, they are workhorses, that's for sure. But well, I mean, I guess you could say the Artificial Horizon might be a little more modern. Not really. Yeah, that's they do have a GPS. Look at that. That looks like a GPS in there.
Yeah, they have some kind of a modern something.
Yeah, it looks like there's a. I'm looking at the photo, and it looks like there's a GPS of some sorts in the photo. So maybe in that case, yeah, that's.
But nice try, Matt. Our cockpit is more modern.
It's a Garmin. It's a Garmin, so it's way more modern than us.
Well, okay, that's okay. We'll move on because he hurt my feelings, and I'm going to block Iowa Matt from ever sending anything.
No, you're not. You're not mean like that.
I know. I'm just kidding. And I'm not really hurt. I'm used to it. Look at this crew that I have to work with. They give me crap all the time.
I know. We both shaved at the same time. It's pretty serious.
Yeah, had nothing to do with the show, I'm sure.
No.
Len writes, "Hi, APG crew. Greetings from sunny Vietnam. By pure coincidence, I heard George Nolly's feedback in my hotel room in Da Nang." Of course, George Nolly was talking about that, how one of the scariest moments that he had, and he was talking about his experience flying the push pole, the Skymaster. I forgot what they call it in the Air Force, but
O2 or something.
O2, yeah, something like that. And how he kind of just pulled it straight, vertical and kicked in the rudder and
the Box Canyon maneuver.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's the piece of feedback that Len is talking about, and of course, George was talking about executing this maneuver in Vietnam. And so anyway, he was listening to it while he was in Da Nang. He includes a picture of the ocean front here, and it's beautiful. I mean, it reminds me of the look in Hawaii, Waiheke, and the Diamond Head in the background. Not quite, but very, very similar. Beautiful, beautiful shot. Thank you for sending that in, Len. Anyway, he said I have attached a picture of the southern flank of the Monkey Mountain Peninsula. Oh, so that's what we're looking at here in the picture, the Monkey Mountain Peninsula, where
stunning, absolutely
George did his maneuver. Having flown into DAD several times recently, I can vividly picture George's experience. What a great escape. If they haven't been covered already, perhaps a story of a forward air controller would make for an interesting Plane Tales episode. Okay, there you go. Some more ideas for Plane Tales. Like you need any more, Captain Nick?
I always need more.
Awesome. He says, "Thanks for the great show. Cheers. LOL." That's cool. He calls himself Len on Lantau, or LOL, not laugh out loud. So anyway, that was some cool feedback from Len. Looks like the hotel's still on fire.
Oh God! I'm sorry, I'll mute out for a bit.
No. It's nice. I like hearing all that stuff. It's interesting to hear what's going on when we're recording the shows. Let's see. Captain Ian says, "Dear all, firstly, as a newcomer to your dulcet tones, may I congratulate you all in a pensive chin-stroking way on a wonderful series of podcasts, which now make my all too frequent journeys to Heath Robinson International, all the more bearable. Did I pronounce that correctly, sir?
Yeah, that's good. You know, Heath Robinson, he was quite a famous artist around the time of the Second World War, who was famous for doing intricate cartoons about improbable machines that used to all be connected by wire and string. So, yeah, that's
we
what
have something
that's,
like Rube Goldberg or something like that is maybe the same kind of thing over here in
okay.
the
So
US.
in England, if something, or in the UK, if something is Heath Robinson-ish, it means it's a bit crazy and unlikely to work.
That's the same way we use the name Rube Goldberg. Isn't that right, Dana? I think.
Yeah,
I'll have to look that up.
I think it's Rube Goldberg.
Yeah.
But I've never heard Heathrow called that. I love that. I'm going to have to start doing that, Ian.
So he goes on, may I be so bold as to ask one introductory question and place it on the altar of aviation godliness? Well, this is the wrong episode, or the wrong podcast, Ian. The question being aimed at my ancient pasture rambling countryman, Captain Nick. Has he in the past been a commentator? Sorry, had to put it that way to satisfy my solanum tuberosum fetish. Potato. At any of our wonderful UK air shows over the years, for his melodious patter is remarkably familiar. Having many years ago been brought up on the soothing muses of Raymond Baxter of Farnborough fame and Roger Hoffling at Mildenhall, his tones rekindle vague memories of air shows elsewhere. My IPA and cosmic ray addled brain cells may well be sending me on Boston area style vectors, i.e., miles away from the intended destination. But if you could answer my query, I would be eternally, or possibly at least for a day or two, very grateful. What is your answer, Captain Nick?
Well, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry to say that no, I do not tread the path of the international, or in fact any air shows. I did once do a little bit of commentating at an RAF Valley Open Day, which is little more than flying local, allowing all the locals onto the airbase and having a few visiting aircraft in. So we used to have that, but no, I'm afraid not. All this recent aviation chit chat has been brought about by the APG. I have no other history. I'm sorry to
We
say.
apologize for that.
Yes, you'll never be forgiven.
He says, I look forward to future ramblings in your upcoming podcasts, and thank you once again from the civilized side of the Atlantic for your weekly aviation poetry. Toodle pip, he says. Captain Ian, left-hand seat for Acme Red, White, and Blue Airways, A318, 319, 320, 321, and possibly 350 in the next year or two, and X of the Boeing 757677 parish. So Captain Ian is a well-traveled, qualified airline pilot, obviously, having flown many different types. And let's see, Acme Red, White, and Blue. I can think of one airline that may fit that description.
Yeah, I think that'll be Nev's favorite airline.
Yeah, or it could be. Now, is he over there in? Okay, that could be. So would that work out with all those airplane types?
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah, they've probably in the past had 757-6s. Definitely, they've certainly got 777s.
What about the
they've got
350?
the whole family of Airbuses, and are they? I don't know if they're getting 350s or not. So
yeah, I'm not quite sure. But I think that's a good guess on your part.
Anyway, Ian, I hope you do end up with 350s. I think out of that pretty impressive list of airliners, you're going to love the 350. From what I hear of it, it's going to be a super airplane to fly.
And going on with a little bit further down the list here, Captain Ian also sent in some feedback that I think that would be there will be some interesting discussion about. He says, greetings again from good old Blighty. I think you're right. I was thinking that maybe he was on this side of the pond, but apparently he's not. Reference your discussion on irritating fingerprints on the screens. I have a few more complaints. Far be it for me to whinge as I am from Acme Sky God status, but the following really get on my tits or some other similar statement of aggravation. Number 1, stupid comments on autopilot disengagement, such as motion coming on, or my all-time favorite, this is me, for who else is it likely to be, for fee. No, I can't say it, sake. Is it, am I pronouncing that correct? Is it fee or fee?
I'm
I've never heard
not
that.
certain of the reference, to tell the truth, so I can't comment.
Okay. Similar comments like shields up when putting on the engine anti-ice also count. So
it sounds like something that millennium generation are going to start doing. Yeah. Although my father used to complain when one of his first daughters said, "Hey, Daddy, time to dangle the Dunlops."
Oh boy. Yes. Yeah, I've probably been known to say something stupid like that. Let's see. Number 2, a real bugbear, and I'm afraid, Captain Jeff, that it's your countrymen that are the culprits, is calling Heathrow Holding Beacon Bovington, not its proper name. It's Bovingdon with a D, or calling the VOR Dean's Cross the Cross. It's only you guys that do it. Why? And the only thing I can come up with is it must be the same reason that I hear people here in my country pronouncing India Sierra Oscar pronounced Kingston when the actual nav aid is Kinston, North Carolina. Instead of saying Spartanburg, they say Spartansburg. They put an S in there, which is not right. Or they leave the S out of Collier, VOR, which is Augusta, Georgia. They say Colliers, and it's not. It's Collier. It's just like, come on, get it right, people. I'm probably one of the only ones out there that really cares about that kind of thing, but it bugs me too. Pronounce it right.
Well, Bostonians are terrible at putting letters where they shouldn't be.
Yeah, like adding R to everything at the end when there is no R there.
Or dropping a letter.
Yeah, that's true.
A Boston.
Anyway,
Bustin.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's only to say that I do the same thing when I'm flying an airplane.
Well, you should.
It's Colliers.
No, it's not. Yeah, you're right. It is Colliers.
But it's not what it says on the chart. It's Collier.
No. Oh, that's right. Wait a minute. Now I'm getting confused. No, it is Colliers. It is within us. Collier is not the correct one. So you're saying it correctly, believe it or not. But Spartansburg is not right, and Kingston is not right either, unless you're going to Jamaica.
Kinston,
you got it.
Yeah, Spartanburg.
There you go. That sounds good.
But I put an H in there, Spartan.
That sounds perfectly fine to me. I'm that's all acceptable.
Okay.
Number 3, those people that keep their intercom on when eating. Now, this is not something that I can relate to because we don't use intercoms, at least on the airplanes that I've flown so far at Acme. We did in the Air Force in the 141, but you couldn't hear anything anyway. But he says those people that keep their intercom on when eating, grrr, I really don't want to hear your finest rump steak being chewed to within an inch of its life, just like you don't want to hear the contents of my nasal passages being extruded into the nearest receptacle. Don't do it. Do you use the intercom like a hot intercom, Captain Nick?
No, we don't. Our aircraft are being Airbuses are quiet enough just to have a casual conversation.
Okay.
And yours are pretty quiet too, I know.
Yeah, they're relatively quiet up front, so we don't have.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
Yeah,
I can't hear anything.
What?
Exactly what?
Let's see. Number 4. I think you mentioned this previously, but why do friends at dinner parties have to recount every single awful airline experience as if it is entirely your fault? And he puts in all caps, "It's not my fault."
Yeah,
Yes,
I've stopped telling people what I do now.
I know.
Sometimes I say I travel in aluminium tubing.
I'm in the transportation industry.
There you go.
I say I'm in high-speed aluminum tubing, top secret government project. I can't tell you about it, otherwise they have to kill you.
Chemtrails.
Yeah, exactly.
The wonderful Balrock YouTube video, Living the Dream, covers many of our daily irks really well. And I recommend this to your APGers for those who haven't seen it, but I was curious as to my fellow APG skippers' thoughts on these and their own personal gripes. Any more dislikes on your part, fellow skippers?
Oh, dirty flight decks. geez, guys,
Yeah.
when you get off the flight deck, if you've had a meal all over the center console, give it a bit of a wipe down, for heaven's sake. And not only fingerprints on the screens, but forehead smears and nose smears on the glass. Oh, it's disgusting.
Yeah, I've noticed this a lot more lately, Dana. Maybe you have as well, and maybe it's just the new generation of pilots. But cockpits are. I'm getting into a cockpit that somebody else just left, and the trash can is still there. There are used water bottles, empty water bottles, like in the the places where you keep your water bottles when they're full or when you're using them during a flight. I mean, it just stuff like that. It's just like no respect for the people that are going to be occupying your place of work when you leave it is just wrong.
Yeah, I'm not someone who neatly folds the lap straps, and buckles up the harness and
Yeah, I don't care about that either.
No, but I try and make sure all the lights turn on, all the switches are left in the right position. I pull the screens down if it's a hot day. Just do something nice so the next guys come onto a comfortable flight deck and doesn't feel like it's half a trash heap. But yeah,
I mean, the standard thing for us was always to put in like in Atlanta 16.9, the VOR, because that's something that we manually put in, and then go from your bug for the 200, the category 1 decision altitude, and move it to the field elevation, because that's a nice reference for us when we're taking off to know when we're 1,000 feet above the field elevation. And just standard stuff that we've been doing for years and years. Common courtesies, I guess you'd call it, and they don't seem to be common anymore.
No, that's exactly right. And the other one that really gets me, it won't be a problem anymore, but in the days when we used to have big heavy manuals with those big metal clips on them, guys would throw them up onto the glare shield coaming and slide them down onto the glass because they permanently scratch, and that airplane's going to be on your fleet for 25 years or twice that if it's a Mad Dog, and that scratch is going to be there and annoy the pilots for generations after. So don't throw your bloody manuals up onto the coaming.
Right. Dana, any pet peeves? Because Dana's eating his curried cauliflower salad right now.
I'm not chewing on anything.
Okay, sure.
I actually had a fig in my mouth. I didn't think you could hear that.
Get that fig out of your mouth.
You had a pig in your mouth?
Pig.
Okay, well,
I actually thought I was on mute. So, no, my biggest pet peeve, captains. No, I'm only kidding.
Captains are your big.
Just keep that baseball bat handy. I was talking about the intervention training we were getting at Acme Red, and we don't train our guys to use baseball bats.
We get special training on baseball bats, and now I'm fully qualified to have my little Louisville Slugger bat.
Yep.
But I have to make sure that that's in my flight kit.
Next time you fly with Dana, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, you said it. I mean, the trash bag, number one. Don't leave me your empty receptacles. And you kind of allude to some of the things that are common courtesy. Well, in Atlanta, how about setting up a frequency? We know what the ground frequency. You pull into the gate, you see where the airplane's going, so you pretty much have a good idea whether it's north or south ground frequency and departure frequencies. And the other thing is, well, very common is takeoff flex 50, right? So do that, and then my personal technique
above and beyond.
Yeah, my personal technique is always swap out the databases, so I erase everything that's in the FMS.
Oh, that's nice. You do actually go above and beyond. That's
well,
great.
I think about these things, but just don't leave it a mess. I mean, why people have to touch the artificial horizon or the navigation display, or why they have to touch the altimeter, or why they have to touch the FMA with their fingers is beyond me.
I think we live in a world now that everything's touch screen, and then they go, oh, that's right. There's nothing to touch there.
Yeah.
But if you accidentally do it, like clean it up.
Clean it up.
Just want to look at your stinking fingerprints.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Anyway,
but before you go on any further, my biggest pet peeve is when I go to the men's room in the crew lounge, and people go in there, do their thing, and don't wash their hands when they come out of the.
Oh, I know. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah, and then I'm thinking, okay, well, they're going flipping all these switches in the cockpit. Of course, we already know that I have a condom on my remote control. Now I'm thinking about these same people going to the bathroom, not washing their hands, and going in the cockpit and flipping all the switches.
I know. Or you meet the guy and you shake hands. He just well, let's not get into detail, but that's just wrong. Wash your hands, you idiots. And the other thing that gets me is the guys that are in the bathroom sitting on the toilet on their phone, and then all you can hear in the background is flushing toilets and people grunting and everything else. I'm thinking, really? You're really sharing that with the person that you're talking to on the other end of the phone? Really?
Well, that's right, because the person on the other end of the phone is probably on the toilet as well.
Well, maybe so. I don't know. I just think that is wrong. Don't do it. Don't do it, please.
At least you could do is just text.
Yeah, or just, hey, I have an idea. Why don't you just put the phone down, keep it in your pocket or whatever, and then do your thing in the bathroom. And then when you're out of the bathroom,
Jeff, it's dead time. All that wasted time, for heaven's sake.
Well, the funny part is when you hear the person, getting off the commode, and next thing you know, you hear clunk, plop, and next thing the person's mouth is, oh crap!
No, that's another good reason not to be using your device.
Yeah, so you're not dropping it in the commode.
Exactly. All right. With that,
I
think now it's time for some sanity and the very enjoyable, entertaining installment of this week's Plain Tales. So take it away, old curmudgeon.
The old pilot's Plain Tales. Eating the sun. The Bata Maliba people of Tongo and Benin in Africa have a myth that the sun and moon fight. But when the two merge, it is a time to stop fighting and resolve old feuds and anger. In many countries, myths have evolved to explain the magical disappearance of the sun during an eclipse. It may have been eaten by a dragon, a dog, or even a toad. Whatever the ancient explanations, I wonder what would have come from the minds of our ancestors had the event been coincident with a resounding, deep, booming, thunderous noise that shook their houses and clapped the ears, not once, but twice. America has just experienced a total eclipse of the sun, and it was celebrated with quiet awe and cheering exuberance in equal amounts. But over the deserts of North Africa on the 30th of June 1973, a completely different and never-to-be-repeated sound effect accompanied the moon's shadow as it raced across the continent. By any measure, the supersonic airliner Concorde was a marvel of engineering and aerodynamic design. A collaborative project between British and French aircraft manufacturers. It was first conceived in 1955 when the Royal Aircraft Establishment formally looked at the possibility. Initially, it seemed to be an unsolvable dilemma, since the aircraft appeared to need an enormous amount of fuel, vast runway lengths, and eye-wateringly fast approach speeds. However, a team of 3 RAE engineers, Johanna Weber, Dietrich Kutschmann, and Eric Mascal, who understood 3-dimensional flow separation, came up with the slender delta wing design that would change the entire nature of supersonic design almost overnight. The creation of a low-pressure vortex over a long, slender delta wing would provide the lift required to lower takeoff and landing speeds. Indeed, the Handley Page test aircraft, the HP-115, would ultimately demonstrate safe control speeds as low as 60 knots. It was the wing plan form, an ogival delta, which follows the shape of a Roman ogee arch that cured many of the problems encountered during the design development, such as the enormous center of pressure movement on the wing throughout the aircraft's speed range. Look at the aircraft's plan form to see the beauty of the wing's shape. as it transitions from the straight fuselage side into a concave curve, which then smoothly reverses into a convex curve, eventually to end up again parallel to the fuselage. The center of pressure, the point through which the sum of the lift can be thought to act, still moved around 2 meters in relation to the center of gravity as the aircraft transitioned to supersonic flight, so fuel was pumped aft at the same time to keep Concorde in trim. 4 of the mighty Rolls-Royce Olympus engines from the Vulcan were chosen to power the Concorde, albeit they were reheated for takeoff and to overcome the transonic drag rise as the aircraft accelerated to supersonic flight. A complex system of intake ramps and spill doors controlled the air entering the intakes, and splitter doors kept the intakes separate. Once above Mach 1.7, the aircraft could cruise relatively economically, but at lower levels, the nature of the turbojets made them quite inefficient, particularly while taxiing to the runway, when up to 2% of the aircraft's fuel could be consumed. As a result, a high level of cooperation was needed at the airports that operated the Concorde so that no taxiing delays occurred. It would be hard to list all of the firsts that the Concorde introduced to the world of civil aviation, but here are a few. It had a full fly-by-wire control system, albeit analog, as was the engine control, a predecessor of the modern FADEC digital engine control systems commonplace today. Its ability to supercruise in dry power above Mach 1.7 was essential, as in reheat the fuel consumption was pretty high. Previously, only advanced military aircraft had been capable of supersonic cruise without the use of afterburners. The Concorde's autopilot allowed hands-off control throughout the flight envelope, and the autothrust was particularly valuable since the approach was made well on the wrong side of the drag curve, and accurate throttle handling was very important. At low speed and high angle of attack in the landing phase, if the aircraft slowed, its drag would increase rapidly, causing the speed to reduce even further. This made speed control unstable, and if this tendency wasn't caught early, it was easy for the speed to drop to dangerous levels. The Mach 2.02 speed limit was mainly due to the heating effect of air compression on the outer surfaces. The majority of the aircraft was made of an advanced aluminium alloy called hydiminium, RR58, which could operate up to temperatures as high as 127 degrees centigrade. The increase in temperature caused the airframe to expand by up to 30 centimeters. It's nearly a foot. Keep the cabin cool, fuel was used as a heat sink for the air conditioning as well as the hydraulic system. The aircraft's paint scheme was also limited as it needed a highly reflective white finish, which reduced the skim temperature by as much as 11 degrees centigrade. Due to its high cruising levels, the flight deck was also fitted with a radiometer to measure the levels of ionizing radiation. During periods of high solar activity, the cruise level was sometimes limited to as low as 47,000 feet. Construction was started in 1965, and the 2 prototypes, 001 and 002, flew in 1969. Before long, the aircraft was flying around the world on sales tours, and it commenced its first scheduled service early in 1976. But the flight I'm interested in occurred nearly 3 years earlier. In 1973, there was going to be a very special solar eclipse. Due to a combination of geometric effects, on the 30th of June, the total eclipse that was going to occur would last 7 minutes and 4 seconds. Such long eclipses are rare, the previous similar one having been in 1098, and there wasn't going to be another one along until 2150. An eclipse gives a rare chance to observe the sun's corona, the tendrils of gas that dance around the sun's outer atmosphere. But the time is usually too short to establish patterns of movement or make truly detailed analysis. Independently of each other, astronomers in both France and the UK saw the arrival of this new marvel of the sky and the upcoming eclipse as a wonderful coincidence. Following an eclipse with an aircraft wasn't a new idea by any means, but in Concorde, flying at Mach 2, the window of opportunity for them to observe the eclipse would be extended from 7 minutes to a luxurious 70 minutes. And high in the atmosphere, there would be no chance of pesky clouds getting in the way. Approaches were made to use the British prototype 002 as well as the French 001. The British turned down the request, but Pierre Lina took the proposal direct to André Turcat, the first test pilot to fly a Concorde. Turcat was curious, and over lunch in Toulouse, Pierre sketched out his idea on a napkin. The plan was deceptively simple. Closing in at maximum velocity, Concorde would swoop down from the north and intercept the shadow of the moon over northwest Africa. Traveling together at almost the same speed, they would essentially race the solar eclipse across the surface of the planet, giving astronomers an unprecedented opportunity to study the various phenomena only visible during an eclipse. The ethereal solar corona, the effect of sunlight on the darkened atmosphere, and the brief red flash of the chromosphere, a narrow region around the sun that is usually washed out by the much brighter photosphere. Turcat was impressed, and he took the idea to his bosses at Aerospatiale, who, perhaps surprisingly, gave the go-ahead, agreeing to absorb the costs. Hardly expecting such cooperation, the astronomers had surprisingly little time to work out the details of what experiments to take. Meanwhile, Concorde 001 had to be modified with 4 observation windows in the roof and support frames to carry the various sensors and cameras. 5 teams were offered the chance to participate. The French Institute of Astrophysics, Kitt Peak National Observatory, Los Alamos National Laboratory, Queen Mary University of London, and the University of Aberdeen. With 4 months to go, the final permissions were obtained and the researchers rushed into their final preparations. In the meantime, the crew of 001 were busy planning. Turcat decided that the Gran Canarias Las Palmas airport would be a good launch point, and they would intercept the moon's shadow over Mauritania and follow it as far as their landing point at Fort Lamy in Chad. John Beckham recalled his excitement at being given the chance to join the teams. I was absolutely ecstatic and a bit worried, he recalled. For one thing, the time was short. I had the basic equipment, of course, which was a Michelson interferometer with a helium-cooled detector, but I didn't have the infrastructure to link to Concorde and track the eclipse path. There was no time to automate it. Instead, Beckman devised a way to track the eclipse manually. At last, the preparations were complete and the scientists assembled on board. At exactly 10:08 in the morning, Turcat spooled up the 4 Olympus turbojets and, engaging the afterburners, roared down the runway at Las Palmas. Thousands of miles to the east, the moon's shadow was leaving South America and racing across the Atlantic towards Africa. A few minutes after takeoff, the aircraft passed Mach 1, and climbing into the stratosphere, they leveled at 56,000 feet and easily accelerated to Mach 2. Despite their practice runs, the atmosphere on board was tense as the teams prepared their equipment and the flight crew worked to perfect their timing to intercept the course. Using the twin inertial platforms, they followed a carefully planned trajectory to merge with the shadow. Their calculations worked perfectly, and they arrived under the eclipse within a second of the expected time. The chase was on. Alone in the Mauritanian sky, they hurtled along the path of totality. Under the 4 specially constructed apertures, the astronomers concentrated on their observations. One team devoted their efforts on detecting dust particles left over from comets in the solar halo, attempting to determine if there was a ring or sphere of them around the sun. Another used a side porthole to watch the effects produced by the sudden darkness on oxygen atoms in the Earth's atmosphere, whilst a veteran American airborne Eclipse chaser, Donald Leibenberg, looked up at the eclipse to measure pulsations in light intensity. Beckman was very busy, but he did recall having time to glance out of the side window at one point and see the edge of the umbra, the penumbra, and the daylight beyond. He was also able to gaze up at the corona, and as the limb of the moon slowly occulted the solar disk, he saw the chromosphere, which flashed out in bright red alpha light. Concorde could have kept going, but the landing site at Chad was approaching fast. Turcat turned south out of the darkness and descended towards the runway. The landing was a little tense, as the runway was barely long enough, and Turcat only had a few meters of tarmac left when he stopped the aircraft. They all stepped off and into a surreal scene of half-light, as the sun was still partially eclipsed. Armored cars moved amongst the people, as a rumored coup d'etat had been timed to occur during the eclipse. People in the street gazed at the sun through pieces of smoked glass, and children threw stones into the air to chase away the creature that had tried to devour it. In one flight, the remarkable capabilities of Concorde had been demonstrated, and the mission was a testament to the way that scientific inquiry leads to innovation. Nowadays, satellites can create artificial eclipses and permanently study our nearest star. At the time, however, knowledge of the solar corona was very, very limited. Planned Concorde eclipse flights in 2001 were cancelled, following the tragic crash of Flight 4590 just after takeoff from Paris on the 25th of July 2000. Shortly after, the fleet was grounded, never to fly again. Now, the elegant sweeping lines of Concorde's beautiful wing can only be seen in aircraft museums. And should you visit the Air and Space Museum at Le Bourget, you can see the exact aircraft that chased the Eclipse in 1973, complete with the special roof portholes and the mission logo on the fuselage.
Very cool. I told you we were going to talk more about the Eclipse.
Had I realized, I don't think I'd have done that subject.
No, I think it was in keeping with the post-eclipse. I don't know. Whatever.
Post-ecliptic
theme. Whatever.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not a wordsmith.
But it gave me.
How was
was
the
never
Eclipse?
gonna do. Yeah, sorry. I was never going to do a plain tale all about Concorde. It's just too well known. But it gave me an opportunity just to cover a little bit about it, which I thought was.
I found that very interesting. I never knew that the Concorde did that chase, and it's amazing that they were able to get that through.
Absolutely,
back then.
and so soon after it had actually, it wasn't even on operational flights with airlines. So I was quite amazed that they were carving holes in their prototypes at that point.
That's the thing that really amazed me, is that they put in those 4 portholes in the ceiling of the jet.
Yeah, well, it can't have been cheap, because the materials they had to use were, had to be able to withstand over 100 degrees centigrade and also stay optically perfect. So they must have devoted quite a bit of time and effort. And more of the story involves the amount of equipment that they actually flew into Africa to support the mission. They had spare engines and all sorts had been sent down there. So there was a number of aircraft, not just Concorde, as well.
Wow. And that was all donated.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
Decided that it would be a good PR for the aircraft, and they paid for it all.
Wow, amazing!
It's amazing.
Great
Absolutely
story.
Amazing.
All right,
Jeff, did you make it down? Did you make it over to South Carolina for the Eclipse?
Yes, we talked about that at the beginning of the show. I actually did a special Eclipse episode published yesterday, And so we talked about
to
the
catch that.
experience that we had there, and had a great time. Yep. And
I just want to know how your butt was.
My butt was just beautiful.
Was it moist?
And the smoked pork that I prepared in the big green egg was good as well.
That's what I was talking about, actually.
Oh,
I just want to know if it was moist. I have a moist butt.
Are you asking if my butt was moist?
Yes. Did
the
the bone come right out of your butt?
But now it's all
dry. Did you do a bone in? Did you put a bone in your butt?
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on.
No.
Bone in.
Bone in. So did your bone come out clean?
Oh, yeah.
See,
all right.
You did a great job.
As Matt Smith always likes to say, family show. Let's move on.
We're talking about pork butt here.
Yes, of course we are.
Anything else other than a pork butt.
All right. Charles writes in, you guys might appreciate this photo I took in Detroit, especially Captain Nick. Enjoy. And there's a picture here out the window at the Acme terminal in Detroit, and shows a picture of the Airbus 350 at the gate. And behind it, taxiing by from left to right, is the Queen of the Skies, the 747-400. And he wrote in his tweet, a truly special photo. Her Majesty, the Queen of the Skies, Boeing 747 taxis by as her brand new week-old replacement, the Airbus A350. And when I say week, I mean W-E-E-K. That's what he wrote here, not W-E-A-K. Parks at the gate next to her. It is the end of an aviation era, but also the beginning of a new and exciting one. So thanks for sending that in, Charles, and taking that photo.
Yeah, always like to see pictures of the Dowager Duchess.
Okay, and excuse me, you're choking me up. Mike Smith from Maynard, Mass. Sent in a link from a video that he produced, and it has to do with this year's visit to the EAA Air Venture 2017 in Oshkosh. And it's it has a music soundtrack, so listening to it on an audio podcast would be fruitless. So you should take a look at it. The link to the video, the YouTube video, will be in the show notes. So thank you, Mike, for pointing us in that direction. Stefan says, hi, Captain Jeff and the APG crew. Stefan Cordery here from the UK. I'm a relatively new listener of 2 or 3 months now. Just stopping by to say that I love the show and wanted to leave my first audio feedback. And so he showed me how to gain access to his audio, and I have it. So, Stefan, your first audio feedback is playing on the APG right now.
So, hello to Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, First Officer Dana, and of course, Dr. Steph. Stefan from Redhill, as in Redhill Aerodrome in the UK by Gatwick Airport. Just got back from a flying lesson and thought I'd leave my first audio feedback as a thanks, really, because I've been well and truly hooked on APG now for a good few months, and to satisfy my craving, I've been going back over old episodes, but really enjoy the show. And yeah, I just wanted to share a story with you, which you might like, which is I did my first solo 4 or 5 lessons ago, and it was great fun, went really well. It was a bit of a shock when the instructor said, you know, I'm gonna get out now. How do you feel? And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. But the lasting memory was the last thing he said to me before I get out of the aircraft, and that was, if it doesn't look right, just go around. And a smile came to my face as that song started playing in my head. And from that day on now, whenever I'm flying circuits or I'm coming into land, I can't help but hum to myself in my head. I'm not sure if the instructor knows that I'm doing that, but yeah, it's definitely a chuckle when I'm flying. But yeah, absolutely love the show. Can't wait for the next one, and I hope there's a meetup in the UK at some point. And just wanted to say thank you, and blue skies, tailwinds, and lashings of IPA. Stefan from Redhill. See you later.
Thank you, Stefan, for that. And I tried to do something routing some sound around, but I don't think it came through. So what I was trying to play during your wonderful first audio feedback was, of course, the lovely tune that we like to listen to, and it's entitled "Go Around."
You can always go around if it don't look right coming down. Don't wait until your sides maybe sliding on the ground. You can always go around. I know back when.
Awesome. Thank you, Stefan. Congratulations on your first solo.
Absolutely.
And welcome to the community. Now, when I played the go around before, did you hear anything at all?
No.
No, just
Okay,
interrupted the audio, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, I paused it to play the go around audio clip, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm not hearing anything in my headphones. And I thought, okay, let's resume his audio, and then I'll just play it a different way. Yeah. Well, probably we'll leave all this in, all the ugliness. Let's see. So thanks again, Stefan. Welcome to the community, and congratulations on your first solo, and you'll have to keep us apprised as to your progress in your aviation journey. All right. Willem says, I hope all is well. I just booked out of the blue a ticket with Iceland Air to visit Washington, D.C. for a couple of days. Any chance there's a meetup somewhere near the weekend of 1, 2, 3 September? Kind regards, Willem. Now, I'm not planning any meetup in Washington, D.C. on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of December or September. I don't know, Nick, what your schedule is like. I don't think you're going to be in D.C. area.
The beginning of September, I'm in San Francisco.
No, it's not even close. Not even close. Dana, are you going to be in the D.C. area?
Nope, I am not in the DC area. I'm in DC area tomorrow, but I'm not going to. I was thinking about doing a meetup. I'm not going to.
Okay, well, tell you what. If anybody is listening to this right now, I mean, we're toward the end of August, so it's going to be tight. But if you happen to be in the DC area, or you're listening to, I know we have APG community members in the DC area. So if you want to have some sort of a meetup somewhere, contact me, and then I'll get you in touch with Willem, and you guys can talk aviation and drink beer and eat good food and all that kind of jazz.
I know Nev's going to DC, but I don't know exactly when.
That's going to, I know that one, 12th and 13th. Actually, he's like the 12th through the 15th, but I think the days that he's available for a meetup would be like the 12th or the 13th. I think he's coming in on the 12th, and so like the evening of the 12th and sometime during the 13th.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to be back here at Grandma's house.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a call out to anybody out there that might be interested in meeting up in the DC area. I know there are a bunch of great guys and gals up there in DC. Oh, I don't know if you saw this. Captain Jeff sent this in to us. The other Captain Jeff. Last time it was in the main gear well. This guy was up in the nose gear well. My guess, E&E compartment is just aft, and that kept the well warm enough. But oxygen? So this story that he's pointing us to is from the Daily Mail. A stowaway survives a 2-hour flight in landing gear bay into Miami. The stowaway climbed up the front landing gear of the Airbus A321 on Saturday. He survived more than an hour at 34,000 feet inside the unpressurized area. The man was arrested after he was spotted leaving the aircraft in Miami Airport. Police detained the man, whose name wasn't released, and medics assessed him before he was sent back to the Dominican Republic. And so it's one of those situations where if everything comes together just exactly right, we have heard people actually survive doing this kind of thing, and it's not the majority of people that try this. It's the minority for sure. Usually it has something to do with the person's age and the fact that, as Jeff mentions, that this is in the nose gear well, very close to the E&E compartment where there's a substantial amount of heat that is produced from it. So that may have kept the temperatures, at a probably pretty darn cold, but not super freezing. And then of course the lower temperatures do kind of put you in a suspended animation state where your breathing levels and oxygen levels are greatly reduced. But 34,000 feet without pressurization, that's something. That person didn't die.
No, I mean, but many do, and the sad thing is that you put your gear down on the approach, and that's it. They fall out.
Yeah, if
So,
you're unconscious at that point, yeah, it's over because you're not there to do whatever you're going to do to keep from falling out that hole. It's amazing to me that he didn't get crushed by the gear itself.
yeah, there's not a lot of spare space, if any, in an aircraft's nose gear bay. I mean,
Yeah.
pointless putting spare space there. So yeah, you'd have to be real careful, and it must have been terrifying when that gear came up.
Can't be fat like me. There'll be absolutely no room.
Actually, having a little extra, weight might actually help your
Girth.
survival if you don't get crushed by the gear.
Girth. I have a
Girth, yes,
girth.
like
Yes.
I have as well.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
Jeff?
really.
No, you don't.
No, you're all solid. Anyway, mine's all
You
flat.
can always go around.
Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Michael and Mike responded to the person that wrote in. Let's see, what was the guy's name that wrote in regarding having trouble securing a loan? I'm sorry, I forgot your name. And it was in episode 283. I'll start with Michael's response. He said, longtime listener, definitely long enough to be diagnosed with APG syndrome, but first time feedbacker. In episode 283, someone gave feedback regarding her inability to acquire a loan to attend an ATP school, and I feel like I have the answer to the question and a recommendation from experience and research. I, too, visited an ATP school here in the Chicago area and considered attending ATP. I went as far as taking the discovery flight and apply for the student loan. First, in response to the quandary as to why they did not receive approval for the loan with such a high credit score, the type of loan provided solely by two financial institutions when I researched are private and unsecured, meaning no collateral or government backing. In nature, these loans are more difficult to acquire, especially when you're expected to have zero income and the loan amount being relatively high. In my case, for example, the amount would be around $90,000. Very expensive. This being said, I believe this may have been the situation in his case, as well as many others. As a side note, I thought that the cost was entirely too high for me personally. As an alternative, I would recommend the route I chose to be considered. I previously found a Part 141 school where I started taking flight lessons before considering ATP. So I decided to make a considerable uptick in flight lessons and take a break in work or modification in my work schedule to provide the time for more lessons. As far as financing is concerned, especially with such a high credit score, I decided to open up 2 new credit cards solely for extending my flight school budget. I chose credit cards as opposed to a flight school loan to have more purchase flexibility instead of only paying for the lessons. I chose Airline Rewards credit cards as an added benefit to earn a vacation flight after so much hard work with the flight school. I used the credit cards as a way to supplement financing flight lessons, meaning I paid out of pocket, but I have the credit cards to charge lessons if I have a temporary delay in cash. The idea with this method is to not allow financing challenges to delay flight training. You'll have enough delays with weather, probably not as much in Tampa as in Chicago. I will say this method does require financial diligence and discipline. Either way, good luck, and remember, ATP is not the only option. Don't give up on flight school, just find another option. In the few months after I implemented this plan, I've reached my private pilot license check ride hours requirement and hope to take the check ride by the end of September. In hindsight, I'm happy with my outcome of not attending ATP. Instead of being about $90,000 in debt, I was able to land a job comping me just north of the cost to attend ATP. Added benefit, my job is with a major airline based out of Chicago. We'll just call them Acme Drag Airlines. And he said, haha, too soon? I think we know which one you're talking about. Mike also responded, said that one thing that came to mind is his current debt to income ratio. Does he have a mortgage, a car payment that already take up a sizable portion of his income? He would also have to add any revolving credit expenses to this. Is he planning on working his current full-time job while tackling full-time flight training? If he did not say that his income will remain the same during training, this could also influence the credit issuer's decision. It's not just about credit scores and history. In almost all loan decisions, the prospective lender puts a lot of weight on current and projected debt to income ratios. This is the only thing I can think of based on what he stated his credit history is. Hopefully, this can shed some light for Jonathan and help him get the money he needs for training. So
yeah, it was Jonathan Drucker was the guy.
Thank you. Yeah, so thank you. Our community is great. People have a quandary, and the APG community comes together and says, okay, I think this is what is going on here, and hey, here's an idea. Try to do this. This is what I'm doing.
That was excellent feedback. I mean, just I was listening to that on the road and trying to. Obviously, I wasn't here for that show, but I was trying to figure out what I could come up with to help him out, and that feedback was just it's fantastic because that's one of the things I was thinking about was the credit card option. Very expensive to do it that way, interest-wise, if you can't afford to pay it all off at the same time, but certainly gets you going in the right direction because the longer that you spend not getting there, certainly the money that you're losing. So it's just an investment in your future. I mean, that's kind of one of the things I want to talk about when I come back, how I got here. I grew up in a very, very poor situation with not a whole lot of money, no food on the table, no heat, and no hot water. And yet I'm sitting here as a successful airline pilot. And I was working 4 jobs and going to college, and it took me a long time to save up enough money and get myself far enough out of debt myself to be able to complete my flying education. Once I did it, it certainly has paid off, and you just have to find any avenue, any way, whether it be a credit card, whether it be personal loan, whether it be loans from friends or family or whatever you need to do, because let me tell you, I have no regrets. That was the best choice of my life. I don't know where I'd be now if I had stayed the course that I had been going, because if you love it, if you love the aviation, if you love flying, if it's something that's in your passion, it's in your blood, you got to find a way to do it. And anybody I talk to, that's what I tell them. So that's excellent advice that he gave regarding the different options and why possibly they weren't allowing him to have that money. But I did the same thing. I used credit cards. I was in debt, student loans and credit card debt up into my late 30s just to be able to get to this point that I am in life. So don't let it hold you back.
Absolutely. But as Mike mentioned, that it does take discipline, though. You have to be careful with those credit cards, right? Yeah. And you don't get pulled a credit card. He did say that he wants some spending flexibility. You don't open up a credit card and go out and buy a $2,500 TV, go buy a surround sound system, go out and buy dinner every night at Ruth Chris. You eat ramen noodles. You watch TV on a 13-inch black and white TV if you have to. You go without cable. It's a very small sacrifice for a short amount of time, relatively speaking, compared to your airline career. I mean, Jeff, you'd say 28 years. And right now, for me, it's 11 years, at least at Acme. Prior to that, it's 5 years at a regional. So, we're talking 15, 16 years for a matter of a couple of years. I mean, I in earnest, from 28 and a half, 29 years old until about 32 is when I really made my big sacrifice. It took me 3 years, but that's a very small price to pay for the past 16. And going forward, of course, and I've got another 18 years to go. So make the sacrifice. Be smart about your money. Don't go out and waste it, and apply every bit of everything you can afford to finishing up your flying career, because it's never been both of you guys have been around a long time.
there's never been a better time in this business. I think never. It's late. I think it was late 70s. It was a good time into the early 80s. But after that, it's been a dry spell up until now. And boy, I'll tell you what, it's everybody's begging. So, but never a better time.
Absolutely.
That could change tomorrow. I mean, there could be some world event. Who knows?
Yeah.
But as we speak today, right now, on the 23rd of August, 2017, never a better time.
There you go. There, he's done it. He's been there. He's had the experience, and it's great advice. Thank you, Dana, for chiming in on that. And with that, it looks like we're a little long in the tooth now, so it's time to end the show. And as always, we point you over toward the airlinepilotguy.com website, where you can find information about the show and the crew and the community, the coffee fund, merchandise, and more. Again, that's airlinepilotguy.com. We have a couple apps for your smartphones where we send out push notifications when we're about to record a show and when shows are posted, so you can be the first one to be notified by getting your APG app on the iOS and Android platforms. We're also on social media, and Captain Nick is going to tell us about that.
Yeah, we're on Facebook, and it's Facebook.com/Airline Pilot Guy. And we're on Twitter. We're using the handle at APG Crew.
There you go. And we're also on something called Slack. And hang on, let me see if he's available. Hillel, come on. It's time for you. Okay, I'll move out of the way.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and plain tales topics. We plan meetups and events. To get into the Slack team, please send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @HI11E1, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel @HI11E1, and see you in Slack.
Thank you, Hillel, for that. And I guess with that, until next time, we're wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Goodbye, everybody.
I'm sorry I had you on mute. Yep. Thank you. Great being part of the show, even though it was short-lived tonight. And have a great week, and hopefully see you next week. Bye-bye. All
right. Thank you. I'm sure it sounded good to you, but we didn't hear a thing from you.
Yeah. I had taken a little sip, and I didn't want to have anything in the background as you were.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
And then I went to say something and completely forgot that I was on mute. Sorry.
That's all right. It's not the first time that's happened on a podcast, and it's not going to be the last.
Well, it's better than hearing.
Or at least you didn't have any troubles with your microphone this time.
No, it's everything worked out great.
Excellent.
Speed is great here. So
excellent. All right.
And Grandma held up. Good old Grandma.
Wow. I mean, great internet bandwidth from Grandma.
Yeah, thanks. She's a good old dear. I'll have to. She
just goes to show you that even old people like us still have some life left in us.
There you go. Now, David Abbey is sitting in the car park with my
poor guy.
box. So, I'm going to go out and buy him a quick burger, and then I'm going to hit the hay because I've got
to go out early tomorrow.
Yeah, early start. So, do you mind if I just wish you all the best and disappear?
Not at all. Get going.
Okay,
brilliant. Our best to David.
Thanks. Now, don't forget, I'm going to send you Liz's spreadsheet to slip into the somewhere onto the website.
All right, we'll get on it soon.
That'd be brilliant. Yeah. Anyway, love to see you too, Dana. You look after yourself, and catch you guys next week.
All right. Have a good flight tomorrow.
Great show. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Okay, chat room. Thanks for hanging out with us. Much appreciated. Another long show, but I hope you feel like it was worth it. I know I do.
Yeah, well, so. I think they thoroughly enjoy the entertainment value and really enjoy being in that chat room as we like to watch what they're saying.
Yeah.
So
All righty. Well, we're going to stop the broadcast. I know that everybody has lives to go to. So until
Good night,
next
all.
time, have a great week and a great weekend.
Bye-bye.